can see the screen okay? It should say 21 days of real estate riches. Okay, great. All right, and we still got folks coming in, so let's get everybody in and get to rocking and rolling. Okay, so quick review. You should have gotten your workbooks. Everybody should have gotten their workbook. If you did not get your workbook for specifically week number 3, please reach out to Lisa at needhelpasklisa.com, needhelpasklisa.com. You can call the office, nothing wrong with that, but needhelpasklisa.com is 24/7. So you literally reach out to her like right now if you wanted to open up a second window and say, I did not get my book. Please double check spam filter. Make sure that you have everything set to receive emails from real investors. We did find out that there were some issues with Yahoo emails. We did find out that apparently there's been issues all week long with Apple emails. So at me.com, at mac.com, and at yahoo.com. So if you have one of those emails, it's not us, it is your email service provider. Real quick, again, announcement, the apprentice class is almost full. It's almost sold out. If you do plan on participating in the next apprentice class, it's going to take place in a couple weeks. Please, please, please go to Life Changing Education, sign up. I would strongly recommend that you sign up for the payment plan. All options have 100% money back guarantee, but sign up for the payment plan. And then if you need to have a different payment plan, or if you are a first responder or involved in healthcare, please reach out to Lisa after you sign up. Reach out to Lisa after you sign up, and she can modify the payment plan, okay? And then again, those of you who have been turning in your buyer broker agreements, I will be meeting with investors who turn them in next Wednesday at 5 p.m. So please note that on your calendar now. Everybody who turned in a buyer broker agreement, everybody who would like to work, I'd like to have me work with you, be your mentor, be your coach, assign a coach who knows what they're doing. I will be meeting with you next Wednesday, and I'll get you all the details separately from this meeting, obviously, okay? So, quick review. Again, folks should have been uploading your mock contracts and practicing. Anybody upload your mock contracts? Yes, give me a thumbs up if you did. Did you get a comment from me like within a couple hours? Yep. So that's how I mentor, that's how I coach when I do large group coaching mentoring sessions. We got well over 100 people in this particular class that we're doing live, and several more will watch it. But when you upload into the Facebook group, that's where you get a chance to have me actually look over your shoulder, mentor you, coach you, and give you some advice on how to, where you missed the mark, where you hit the mark, et cetera, et cetera. Again, those of you who do want to have real investors work with you, want to have me specifically work with you, please sign and send in your buyer broker agreements to broker@realinvestors.com, or fax it into 301-218-4337. Some of you are like, what's a fax machine? Yes, there are some of us who still have fax machines, believe it or not. And if you decided that you don't want to work with real investors, then go find somebody. But they're not going to work with you without a buyer broker agreement. And more importantly, you will not have that fiduciary relationship protection that you want without a signed buyer broker agreement. That's what creates the fiduciary relationship with your agent, okay? So whether it's us or somebody else, you need to sign it, get it in, because we're ready to start sending contracts out. That's what the last few days of this program are going to be about, is getting them out the door, and getting them out the door in an efficient manner so that you're making 90% of the profits, but only spending 10% of the time necessary to make this thing work, okay? Please, again, continue working on your MAR contracts, your PG CAR. If you want me to comment, if you haven't, like several people still have not sent in their contracts. I mean, this is the same homework assignment for the past 4 or 5 days, guys. I don't understand why some folks have just chosen not to do their homework, but I work best and I can help you best when you do your homework. Got it? Okay. And then finally, make sure that you're watching those videos. Make sure you've downloaded the app, because we're going to start using all those tools I've been giving you over the past several weeks. We're ready to actually start putting them in play and using them starting today. And if you haven't downloaded it, you don't have it on your mobile device, if you haven't watched the videos on different neighborhoods, then quite frankly, none of what I say today is going to make sense to you. And you need to really sort of pick up the pace and join the rest of us who have been doing the homework, who have been watching the videos, who have been submitting the contracts. Just saying, All right, quick review. Here's where we are. We are now officially into week 3. We're in the home stretch. Yay! Let's hear it for the home stretch, right? We're there. And this is where we start talking about putting it on autopilot. And I know somebody like, wait a minute, put it on autopilot. We've just been practicing. How are we going to put it on autopilot? Trust me, just trust me. It will all make sense. What I share with you today, tomorrow, and the day after, it will all make perfect sense. And the key, as I'm going to explain to you, is to do this yourself first and get the hang of it. And then immediately, once you start getting results, put this thing on autopilot. If you've been doing the homework, if you've been staying with us, if you've been downloading cheat sheets and doing everything I've asked you to do, it is only going to take you about a week to flip the switch and put this thing on autopilot. If you haven't done the homework, if you haven't watched the videos, if you haven't downloaded cheat sheets, if you're way, way, way behind, it may take you another week. But trust me on this, putting this thing on autopilot will happen sooner rather than later and faster than you anticipate, okay? So if you're just feeling like, whoa, where's all the pieces? Where, you know, you're gonna get them. You're gonna get them over the next couple of days, okay? Somebody says I've lagged twice. Thank you for saying that. I've lagged. I'm on the wrong network. I've got my own network in my office. Normally when that happens is because, as I was saying, normally that happens when I'm still on the downstairs network rather than my own private network. So thank you for mentioning that. I would hate to go for a full couple hours having latency in the signal. You guys would not like that, and neither would I when I watch the recordings. So thank you for telling me that. Okay, so are you guys hearing me okay now? Give me a thumbs up if you're hearing me okay now. Okay, appreciate it. And again, at any point in time, I start freezing or if the quality's not good, please flag it in the chat box and say, hey, Sherman, you know, you froze on us, whatever, so I can make sure that we get I want you to have a great experience. And the only way to have a great experience is if you can actually hear me and see the videos I'm gonna share with you, right? Okay. All right. So here's where we are. We are in week 3. We're talking about autopilot riches, how to put this thing on autopilot. We're in the first part of it, and we will be really sailing through the last 2 sections over the next couple of days, okay? And I'm getting that little thing that happens sometimes in Zoom, so I'm gonna stop sharing and then start sharing. Sometimes Zoom picks up these little stray marks, and I have no idea where they're coming from, but I find the best way to get rid of them is just unshare and then share again. Okay, so quick review. Here's where we are. We are on week 3, autopilot riches. This is what you can expect over the next couple of days, 4 days. We're going to talk about autopilot automation. I'm going to talk about the 3 rules of automation. There's 3 rules that you should never ever, it's like Newton's law of gravity. It's like 3 things that if you try to defy it, it's going to hurt you. Then we're going to talk about putting it on autopilot. Then we're going to talk about managing your system. Because again, at the end of the day, it's not about you doing the work. It's about you doing the work long enough to know how it should be done and then turning it over to somebody else. Everybody remember what Jesse said yesterday about he wants to see stuff done a certain way? Remember him saying that yesterday? Okay, you want things done a certain way in your business. And the only way to know how things should be done a certain way or to command that things be done a certain way is to do it yourself initially, but you want to do it so that you can very quickly turn it over to somebody else. Mamie says you did not get your student workbook. I'll get to that in a second, Mamie. Anybody else who has not gotten their workbook, also tell me in the chat box so I can refer that over to Lisa and make sure that she knows, okay? All right, so the bottom line is this. We want to learn it well enough to put it on autopilot, and then we're going to manage the process in terms of managing how other people get stuff done for us. That's what's known as OPE. Everybody here know what OPM is? Everybody know what OPM? What's OPM? Type it in the chat box. Type it in the chat box, OPM. What does that mean? Type it in the chat box, please. Please type it in the chat box if you know what OPM means. Yes, yes, yes. Other people's money, other people's money, other people's money. They wrote a song about that. Oh no, that was OPP. You know what OPP? Yeah, okay. So OPE, what do you think OPE stands for? OPE. Okay, I like that, D. Other people's energy. That wasn't what I was thinking. Anybody know what, anybody else want to take a guess what OP? There you go. Other people's effort. Other people's effort. Or when you're brand new to the business, like many of you guys are, other people's expertise, because that's really what you need. Having some folks on your team who know a whole lot more about how this business works than you do. And maybe you were the smartest cookie in the jar. Maybe you graduated cum laude, right? Had the double tassels at graduation and the triple robes, but that don't make you smart about real estate if you're totally new to real estate. And so surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you and leveraging their expertise, right? Other people's expertise, other people's energy, other people's effort, that's what gets you in the game faster, okay? That's why so many people talk about real estate being a team sport. Robert Kiyosaki says it all over Rich Dad and the second half of Rich Dad, which of course is Cash Flow Quadrant. This is a team sport, and it really is. I know of other people who make money. My son, my youngest son, he continues to amaze me. He's making money now off of Bitcoin. I never did understand Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just like Greek to me, right? And he does Bitcoin at 2 o'clock in the morning by himself. Doesn't need any advice. He just watches some YouTube videos and kabam, he's off to the races. But when it comes to real estate, as smart as he is, when it comes to real estate, he's always asking the old man, okay, Dad, how does this work? And how does that work? And how does this work? And who do I need? And who should I put on my team next, right? Real estate is a team sport. And if you're not a team player or you don't want a team, you're gonna have a really hard road to go down when it comes to real estate, right? It's gonna be a rough patch. It's gonna be a really rough patch for you. But if you're the kind of person who sort of likes the idea of you don't have to be the smartest cookie in the cookie jar, you just need to find a couple, you just need to surround yourself with a couple of smart cookies. You know, go find that hollow tree where the Keebler elves are and say, hey guys, you know a whole lot smarter about baking cookies than I am. Can I hang out with you? Then you're gonna love real estate, because it really is about surrounding yourself with really, really incredible smart people who, for the most part, will do stuff for you and will not get paid until you get paid. Anybody like that idea of they don't get paid till you get paid? I mean, literally, they don't get paid until you get paid. Not same time, like they get paid after you get paid. I love that idea. I love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, so we're gonna talk about how do you put a team together, how do you automate the process, and then how do you just manage the process. And that's what I mean when I say over and over and over again, this whole business and this whole segment and this whole class is about you ultimately getting to the place where you're doing 10% of the work, but keeping 90% of the profits. You're doing 10% of the work, but keeping 90% of the profits. And that's only possible by going through this last phase that we're working on, which is this automation phase, okay? Then we're gonna talk about pivoting to FSBOs. So many of you guys asked up front, hey Sherman, when are we gonna talk about lease options, subject to nothing down deals, you know, motivated sellers, yada, yada, yada. And I promise you, we're gonna talk about it before this class is over. But we can't get there until we get the first deal done. Please type that in the chat box. We can't get there until we get the first deal done. Please type first deal done with an exclamation point, first deal done. We can't get to where we want to go as investors until we get that first deal done, because so many magical things happen on that first deal. And the key is to get the first deal done as quickly as possible, because that allows you the opportunity to build the team to then go on and do other things. So we got to get the first deal done. As Stephen Covey said in his book, 7 Habits, we got to make the main thing the main thing. And in this business, the currency of real estate is, put in chat box, the currency of real estate is, boom, deals. If you want to attract people to you, you've got to figure out how to start producing deals. And the fastest, quickest way to get through the first deal and build a machine that's going to produce deals on a consistent basis is exactly what we've been talking about for the past 2+ weeks, and now into the 3rd week of this 21-day program. This is all about getting the first deal done, putting a system in place to get a series of deals done, and put that baby on autopilot so you are getting 90% of the profits for doing 10% of the work, and allow you to go on to something else. I was almost going to say bigger and better things, but the truth of the matter is some people wind up using the technique that I'm sharing with you to make $100,000 a year. And I promised you, and I still promise you that before you get out of here, I'm gonna show you how to take that $100,000 a year and turn it into $200,000. And for a lot of people, that's enough. Seriously, for a lot of people, generating $20,000 a month income, or actually a little bit less than, call it $15,000 a month income, is enough to quit their job. Is enough to be able to sort of go, you know what, I can chill a little bit. You know what, I can now take what I've learned from Sherman, and maybe I'm in the DC area or Atlanta area or Dallas area, and maybe I want to go live someplace where like I can dip my toe in the water while I'm doing real estate from an iPad, like the Virgin Islands or Crete or South Florida or anywhere, Gulf Coast, wherever. Once you crack the code and get the first deal done and have a system in place to get a consistent flow of deals and put that thing on autopilot, you can do this business from anywhere in the world. And that's what I'm giving to you, and that's what I'm teaching you in this 21-day system. And by the time we get to the 21st day, you guys will look back and go, oh my gosh, look how far I've come as an investor, and look how much I know, and look how far I can see. Now I can see getting that first deal done and putting a system in place and putting it on autopilot. And that's what I'm here for. Remember, that's what I promised you the first night. I know it. Look, I know the 17 days has gone by really, really, really fast, but don't forget where you were 17 days ago. Anybody here glad you spent the past 17 days with Sherman? Anybody, can I get a thank you? Good, I appreciate that. All right, so then we're gonna pivot to FSBOs, talk about reverse wholesaling, talk about doing 10x wholesaling strategies. So again, most of the deals we've been talking about, you're going to earn about $5,000 a deal. I'm going to show you how to quickly ramp that up to $50,000. I'm going to give you some case studies and show you how people use the 21-day course, including what I'm going to be sharing with you guys over the next couple of days, to generate $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 in wholesale profits. Not buying, fixing, and flipping. $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 in wholesale. In other words, 10xing their wholesale profits. Now, that's not where we're starting, but I want you guys to understand what the potential is. And I don't mean 2, 3, 4 years from now. I mean 2, 3 months from now. We get the first deal done. We put this thing on autopilot. We go on to something else. Well, the something else is 10xing our wholesaling revenue. And that will certainly position you to do anything else you want to do in this real estate business. When you start cracking $50,000, $100,000 checks on a wholesale profit, for roughly about a day, 3 or 4 days worth of work, it maybe takes you a couple extra days to pick it up. So maybe it's a 45, 60-day closing. And now you are consistently getting big checks like that. There's nothing that's going to stop you in this business. Nothing. So then we're going to get to that last segment, which will probably be the last day. So don't plan on punking out early on me, where I talk about what I call the light of Oprah. The light of Oprah. In other words, a technique that I learned by studying Oprah Winfrey that doubled my income in 1 year without doubling my workload. Anybody like the idea of doubling your income without doubling your workload? I'm not talking about getting a second job. I'm not talking about no part-time job. First of all, you can't double your income with a part-time job anyway, because you'll never sleep. And you probably lose your first job because you're always tired. No, I'm talking about something is totally unique to this real estate game, where you can double your income without doubling your effort. In fact, the level of effort you expend to do this is minuscule. But I learned it from Oprah. And y'all know Oprah's the queen. Oprah's the one that taught Tyler Perry how to become a billionaire. Y'all know Oprah's the one who's been mentoring Tyler Perry for the past number of years and convinced Tyler Perry that he needs to start buying some real estate. So when the opportunity presented itself, he bought Fort McPherson down in the Atlanta area. Next thing you know, Tyler Perry's on the Forbes 400 list as a billionaire. How'd that happen? Oprah told him what to do. As I said at the very beginning, you can have anything you want in life. You can be anything you want to be in life. All you got to do is find somebody who's doing what you want to do and ask them how. Tyler finally got smart enough to reach out to Oprah and say, Oprah, teach me how to be a billionaire. 3 years later, he was a billionaire. Boom. So I'm going to share with you guys, probably on the last day, this one little technique that if you're actually doing the things I've taught you in class, you should expect to make $100,000 a year by the end of your first year. And then I'm going to show you how to put the icing on the cake, which is turn that 100,000 into 200,000 like that. Flip of a switch. All right. Oh, then I promised you guys I was going to teach you guys how to create 3-minute websites. Anybody here need to build a website and don't want to spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy? Okay, I'm going to show you how to do websites in 3 minutes. probably the same last day. And then finally, I'm going to close out on the 21st day, really having a heart-to-heart serious talk about what's next. I'm going to be very honest with you. Some of you guys have given this your all, and you are definitely on a trajectory to start making some serious money. Some of you are struggling a little bit, and you've allowed some things to get in the way. And we're going to talk about how you hit that reset button, and I'm going to share with you how you can go back and watch this material, because we are going to take it off Facebook at some point in time, but I'll show you where we are going to put it so that you can go back and access it, right? And talk about, hey, here's maybe some places where you sort of lost it, and if you just sort of fix a couple things here and there, you may be able to get back into it. There's a very famous author named W. Clement Stone. W. Clement Stone was the guy who really made it possible for, what's his name? Guy who wrote Think and Grow Rich. Help me out, guys. Who wrote Think and Grow Rich? Help me out. Put it in the chat box. Think and Grow Rich was Napoleon Hill. Thank you. So Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, and he wrote it and everybody forgot about him. And then W. Clement Stone read that book, turned himself into a billionaire. It's like one of the most amazing stories I've ever read in my life, and I'll share it with you guys, not tonight, but I'll share it with you. And so W. Clement Stone went in search of Napoleon Hill and found him living well below his means and put him on his payroll. And together they wrote a couple of books. One of the books was called Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. And there was another book, and I can't remember the name of it, but the bottom line is there's one book where W. Clement Stone says over and over and over again, oh my God, what a powerful phrase, write this down. He says in the book, it's called the success system that never fails. That was the title of the book, The Success System That Never Fails. And there was a chapter in the book that people quote all the time and don't even know where it came from. But the chapter of the book was titled Little Hinges Swing Big Doors. Little hinges swing big doors. What was he saying? Oftentimes in life, it's not major things you do, but minor things you do that make all the difference. And you stop and think about it, right? Anybody in high school play basketball or run track or play baseball or wrestle, right? What was it that really separated the top tier athletes from that next tier? What separated the Jesse Owens? Trying to think, what's his name?
Steph Curry.
I'm going to mute you because I asked everybody to mute themselves. Thank you, but I wasn't thinking of Steph Curry. The runner, Carl Lewis. What's his name? Come on, the Jamaican. Come on, help me out, folks. Bolt, Usain Bolt. Thank you. Like, what separates Carl Lewis, Usain Bolt, right? The difference in time between the guys who get the gold medals, the silver medals, the bronze medals, and everybody else is tenths of a second. Tenths. Not a whole second, certainly not a whole minute. It's tenths of a second. In other words, it's the little things. Like, how did you get out of the blocks? Like, what were you doing along the way? And the same is true in business. Oftentimes, it's the little things that can make all the difference. A little fine tuning here, a little fine tuning there could be the difference between you struggling as a real estate investor and you easily making $200,000 a year. Not the big things, the little things. And we're going to talk about that too. We're going to talk about, when we get to the what's next, I'm going to tell you guys, and you already know who I'm talking to, keep doing what you're doing. You're 3 feet from gold. You don't need to change anything, just keep doing it. And some of you, I'm gonna be like, okay, you kind of missed the mark back on day 5 when you didn't do your time blocking, when you didn't do your time sheet, when you do your daily task sheet, and you have continued to struggle all the way through this class because you couldn't get control of your time. Go back and fix that. And some of you, very privately, I'm gonna say, you know what, real estate's not your thing. Go do Bitcoin, go do something else. Because you allowed, not because you weren't smart enough, not because you weren't capable enough, but because you exhibited zero effort. And this is a business that rewards you for doing things. In real estate, you get paid for doing things. You don't get paid for watching other people do things. And some of you, unfortunately, have decided you're going to spend an entire 21 days watching other people make money, watching other people build businesses, watching other people get to the point they can put on autopilot, and you just want to sit back and watch them. And there's nothing wrong with it, except this is not a reality TV show. This is a class. It's a 21-day class on how to get your first deal done and then put that thing on autopilot so you can make $200,000 a year. That's what this class is all about. So any of it, in that last day, we got a whole lot of stuff packed into that last day. So please don't miss it. It's a lot of good stuff going to happen on that last day. Okay. All right. Moving right along. Real quick, again, a real quick recap. I don't want to spend too much time on a recap because we got a lot of stuff to cover today. Quick recap. Again, I talked about this yesterday. I talked about this the day before. This whole concept of having multiple exit strategies. Does anybody have any questions on this topic of multiple exit strategies? Do I need to cover this again? Now's the time. I just felt like some people had some questions that they didn't ask him yesterday on this topic. And I just wanted to make sure I gave a little bit of time for people to ask me before I move forward. So again, the whole concept is when you are a wholesaler and you are making an offer on a property, that property should have 3 obvious exit strategies. Exit strategy meaning how do you exit the deal? As a wholesaler, you should be able to wholesale it, make a wholesale profit. The person you wholesale it to should be able to rehab it, turn around and resell it and make a profit, or rehab it, turn it into a rental and make a decent rental income, not have negative cash flow. If the deal you're going after is priced so high that you don't have 3 exit strategies, you only have 2, then that is what I would term a yellow light, which means proceed, but proceed with caution. And if the deal you're going after is priced so high that the only way that anybody can make money is you wholesaling it to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, and you're kind of taking advantage of them and you know it, that's what's called a red light. And you probably shouldn't do the deal. There will be plenty of deals that come along behind it. Don't do bad deals. It'll only bite you in the butt in the long run, okay? But, and this is really for everybody because I see more of this than anything else, if you got 3 exit strategies, you can make money. The person you wholesale it to makes money. The person you wholesale it to could make money as either buy, fix, and flip, otherwise known as rehabbing, or buy, fix, hold, otherwise known as long-term hold, buy, hold. So there's 3 ways to make money on that deal. You got a green light. Do the deal. I tell you, so many times I see newbie investors, they got a deal staring them in the face, and they're like, I don't know. And someone comes along and snags it right up underneath them, and then they got the lip poked out going, oh, I can't get no deals. You got to use a little brain power. You got to think about what you're doing. And this is another place where you want to connect with a coach, with a mentor, because maybe the deal's a good deal and you just don't recognize it because you're so new in the business. Having a coach mentor saying, it's a good deal, do the deal. It's got 3 exit strategies. That's a green light, do the deal. That can be a huge help to you, okay? All right, anybody have any questions on the red light, yellow light, green light? And as I said before, when we move all this stuff over into REIU, and you guys are watching it in recorded fashion, either watching it again or new people coming in where you're going to watch the recordings and then have live coaching mentoring a couple times a week to go along with it. There will be a section in the website where you can plug in numbers and you actually get a red light, a yellow light, a green light, and it tells you what you need to change to turn it into a better deal, if you can, okay? All right, any questions on that? Anybody got any questions on that? Please, please, please let me know now before I move on. I don't want to move ahead faster than you guys are ready to move. All right, so if you got a question, ask me in the chat box. Ask me in the chat box. Okay. Next up, I'm gonna go over this one more time just because I wasn't quite feeling the love yesterday. So let me go through this one more time. Let's talk about Mayo, the maximum allowable offer. And again, I'm only gonna take a minute or two. Does anybody have any questions on the Mayo formula? Again, you're gonna use this over and over again. So even if it's not quite crystal clear, once you start actually using it and doing it, it'll pop into very clear focus. Mayo formula, the one that we use, and there's lots of people out there who have their own ideas, but this is sort of the classical way to do it. Mayo, maximum allowable offer. It is a formula, and the formula looks like this. Mayo is equal to the fair market after repair value, the fair market after, in other words, you pull comps. And by the way, where do we find comps? Where do we find comps? Please type it in the chat box. That's right. The MLS. Thank you. Everybody's on target. We find comps in the MLS. And one of the things that we're going to have to get good at during our first month in this business is pulling comps. And the best way to get good at pulling comps is put written offers out in the street where somebody comes back to you and says, hey, can you sharpen your pencil? And that's when you get really, really serious about, okay, let me see what the real comps are, not what my Diamond Coach or Sherman or I heard somebody say, right? So we pull the comps, and the comps are going to be a range. They're going to be a range. The prices will vary from about 10 to 15%. We submit our offer. We compose our offer based on the low number in the range, and then we turn around and wholesale the deal to a buyer based on the high number in the range. So the formula looks like this: the fair market after repair value, in other words, what are houses selling for after they're repaired, times the loan to value quoted by the hard money lenders. So right now I'd be using 75% because we're in a relatively hot market. Market slows on you, that's going to go down to 60%, right? 0.6, right? Minus our estimated repair costs. And for the mock contracts that you guys have been doing, I had suggested to you that you just simply use $50,000 for repair costs. Okay. Sorry, I've got to stop sharing because folks keep on unmuting themselves, and I'm getting just a lot of background noise, and that's just going to become very painful as we go along. So I need to sort of mute everybody back up again. And I'm going to again ask folks to please keep yourselves muted as we go along. And if there is time for Q&A, I'll let you know when to unmute yourself, okay? But we had a horrible time last week with somebody who just totally destroyed our session, and I had to go back and re-record it, and I don't want to have to do that, okay? All right, so thank you. So whoever it was muted yourself, I appreciate it. Because you guys understand, I can find you, but I have to like stop sharing and then hunt and find you and turn you off. And I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. Okay. All right. So if we look at the Mayo formula for this particular property, it would look like this. The fair market after repair value for this particular house at that particular time was about $185,000 on the low. So there was 185, a 195, and a 205. I picked the 185. I multiply it by 0.75, right? 185 times 0.75 equals 138,750. And then from that, I subtracted the $50,000 in estimated rehab costs, which gave me a maximum allowable offer, my first number out the gate, of 88,750. Okay? Does everybody see how that works? If you see how that works, give me a thumbs up, please. Give me a thumbs up or say in the chat box, I see how that works. Tell me in the chat box, you see how that works. Cool. So now what happens next? I write up the offer, I submit the offer, and I wait for the other side, the seller's agent, to come back to me and say, hey, can you give me a higher number? Because everything about my offer should be written in such a way that the only thing that they object to, the only thing they find objectionable, is the price. I write my offers in such a way that they are literally friction-free. I'm not asking for a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo. I'm not asking for the things that traditional real estate agents ask on behalf of their clients, like inspections and subject to financing, and you got to wait 15 days for me to submit the financing. No, all that stuff gets whacked. It's whacked. That's what we've been talking about for the past week. It gets whacked. So that the only thing they find objectionable is the price. And if they have another offer, let's say for 100,000 or 150,000, they're going to look at my offer and go, God, that number's so low. But like, that's the only thing I find objectionable. Can they come back and submit a higher offer? At which point in time they communicate that to my agent. My agent calls me up, says, congratulations, we got highest and best. I negotiated 72 hours before you go out there with the contractor, take a look at it. I go out with the contractor, take a look at it. I see other things going on. And I get on the phone with my buyers if I happen to have started to build a buyer's list. And I suddenly realize rehab costs are only going to be $35,000, and I got a buyer who's willing to pay me 110, 120. And I go back to that seller and say, hey, yeah, I can do a highest and best because now I know I got a seller who's willing to pay me 110 and I only need to book or only want to book a $10,000 profit. I can now pay that seller 100 grand. So I go from 88 to 100. Mayo is your first initial offer. And if you're writing the contracts properly, they should only object to your price. And if you write the contracts properly, you should expect 97% of your offers to go in the trash, meaning you never hear anything back, and 3%, 3 to 5%, highest and best. So here's your first quiz question for tonight. If you put 100 offers out in the street, how many are going in the trash can and you will never hear anything back? Nothing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 90, that's exactly right. 97% when you first start. Now, the better you get at this, and the better sharper you get with your construction estimates, which is only going to happen when you get out there and talk to contractors, then that's going to go from like 3% to like 3 to 5%, in which case 96% or 95% go in the trash. But the main thing I want to stress is do not get freaked out when you put out 100 offers and you only hear back from 3 or 4 or 5. By the way, that's all you're looking for anyway. You're looking for 3 to 4 to 5 people. I'm stop going 3 to 5, just say 4. You're looking for 4 people over the course of a month to call you up and say, hey, can you do a little bit better on your price? And the fact that 96% or 96 of your offers went in the trash can, and you don't have to worry about all the back and forth that you need to go through, you're now just dealing with the motivated sellers. That's all you're looking for in the first place. You just want to be talking to the motivated sellers. But unlike some of those courses that people put out on YouTube and YouTube videos, you can't just pick up the phone and call a seller when the seller's listed a property with a real estate agent. You can't do that. It's got to be agent to agent communication. And the only way you can start a conversation is to put a written offer under somebody's face that they have to read, because the law says all written offers must be what? What's the law say? All written offers must be, put in chat box. Put in chat box. Thank you. Presented. All written offers must be presented. In Maryland, which is very specific, all written offers must be presented even if the property's under contract. So if you want to start a conversation with the seller and ask them, oh, by the way, how low will you go? You must put something in writing to start the dialogue. That's all we're doing with this first initial batch of offers. Does everybody understand that? If you understand that, give me a thumbs up. You understand that? Give me a thumbs up. So therefore, all we need is a straightforward, simple process to get these offers out the door, and we got to fill in the blank with something, so we use the Mayo formula. We use this simple, straightforward, keep it simple, Sherman, 3 variables, that's all that goes into the recipe, right? Salt, pepper, cayenne pepper. We don't need anything else. That's it. Salt, pepper, ketchup, mustard, onions. That's the world's greatest barbecue sauce. Put one more thing in it and you're going to totally screw it up. And everybody's going to be sitting around the barbecue going, what is that? That's nasty. What did he put in there? Don't mess this up. Keep it simple. Got it? Everybody put that in the chat box. Keep it simple, Sherman. KISS. Keep it simple, Sherman. Thank you. All right. So does everybody now understand the Mayo formula, what we're using? Give me a thumbs up if you understand the process now. Great. Don't add any more stuff to it. Don't put more stuff into it. Now, I will show you one variation today. So yesterday and the day before, I gave you the core principles. So first I teach you the rules, and then I tell you where we break the rules. And today I'm going to show you where we break the rules, okay? All right, but it's very, very rare when we do that. Very rare, okay? And I'll tell you when and where and how to do that, okay? All right, so now let's get on about the business of putting this thing on autopilot. You're like, wait a minute, Sherman, what are we putting on autopilot? We're going to put on autopilot what we've been talking about for the past 2 weeks. Writing offers into the MLS, having our agent negotiate on our behalf with the seller's agent, and doing it in such a way that it literally is on autopilot. Autopilot. That's the topic of conversation for this week. Autopilot, Richard. We definitely want to put this part of our business on autopilot so we can go on to other things. But understand this, when we put this on autopilot, it's generating 1 to 2 deals a month with a 3,000, because sometimes you take less because, you know, X% of something's worth more than 100% of nothing. Y'all may want to write that down. X% of something is worth more than 100% of nothing. Like if you're brand new to the game and you don't have a buyer's list yet, or maybe 2 or 3 names, like just get a deal done. Even if you're only making $1,000, get a deal so that you can use the deal to build your buyer's list. And don't always be that person like, well, unless I can make $10,000 on one deal, I'm not interested in even on getting out of bed in the morning. Please. This business is about consistency. This business is about doing things in a consistent manner and building on what you know. Crawl, walk, run, win gold medals. I'm gonna type that in the chat box, cut it, paste it, and put it to memory. Crawl, walk, run, win gold medals. That's how it works, folks. Even Usain Bolt and Carl Lewis and everybody else we talked about had to learn how to crawl before they got that first gold medal. Everybody starts the same way. Well, guess what? Real estate's no different. Crawl, walk, run. If you got to crawl to get going, crawl. Then you go from crawl to walk, walk to run, and before you know it, you're going to be picking up some gold medals. Okay? So if you can learn a system to get the first deal done in 21 days or less, and then consistently get deal flow going, and you're making anywhere from 3,000 to, let's call it 10,000 a month on this system that I've given you over the past, or will have given you over the past 21 days, and then put that on autopilot, then you can go on to other things. So we want to put what I've been sharing with you on autopilot. That's why it's the third week of the class. That's why it is an important integral component of the class. And that's what we're talking about today and for the next couple of days. But I need to give you the rules before we start building the machine. And again, just like Newton, these are 3 laws, 3 rules that you really don't want to break. So let me slow it down a little bit and let me encourage you to start taking notes if you have not taken notes at all so far today, excuse me. All right, here's the 3 rules. Everybody see my screen okay? See what says 3 rules? Give me a thumbs up. Sometimes a little bit of lag time. I want to make sure you're looking at the same thing I'm looking at. It says the 3 rules of making offers. Yes? Yes? Okay. So, all written offers must be presented to the seller. Quiz question number 2 for the night. If you want to know what the sellers are thinking, what's the best way to get into their head? Put that in the chat box. Put your answer in the chat box. Put your answer. Exactly. You guys are missing a word, though. You're missing a word. There you go. Submit a written offer. Submit a written offer. It doesn't say that all offers. It says all written offers. In other words, if you have your agent call up the other agent and say, "Hey, what's your person thinking about selling a house for? It's been on the market for a year now. What are they thinking? What do you think they'll take?" That don't mean jack diddly. And quite frankly, if you really want to have a conversation, put it in writing. Because if it's a written offer, it must be submitted. And that will tell you what the seller's thinking. So that's the key. Now, what's the flip side of that? If you really want to make something happen in real estate, you better get good at getting written offers out the door. And you guys have seen over the past several days, writing these offers is not hard. I know the first time you see it, it looks a little scary. It's like, oh my God, it's like 12 pages and all of this legalese and all this gobbledygook. But you guys have done this enough over the past 3 or 4 days. A board of realtor contract should no longer scare you. And you guys have already realized, hey, on an 11-page contract with a 1-page addendum, I'm only filling out about 3 or 4 pages. Everything else is boilerplate. I need to read it. I need to understand what it says, but it doesn't change. It just flat out doesn't change. So there's only like 3 or 4 pages that actually change. But we need to master writing up these offers. And even though after about a week or so, it's going to get really, really boring, we need to master getting them out the door every single day. Consistency is the key. So one of the insider things about automation and putting stuff on autopilot, we got to figure out how we're going to get those offers out the door every single day. Generally speaking, 5 to 10 offers every day. 5 to 10 every day. Right now, based on what I've been sharing with you, this system, this technique that we've been talking about for the past 2 weeks plus now, it typically yields about a 3 to 5% response rate, 3 to 5%. In hyper-competitive markets, it goes down a little bit. And in slower or slowing markets, it goes up dramatically. But generally speaking, it's about 3 to 5%. Okay? But that only happens if we get those written offers out the door every single Okay. Consistency, consistency, consistency. Got it? If you got that and you understand, give me a thumbs up, please. Give me thumbs up, give me thumbs up, give me thumbs up in the chat box. Thank you. All right. Number two. I mean, I've said this over and over again, but I have to say it again. We are hacking the matrix. Everybody write that word in the chat box. Hacking. We are hacking the matrix. Okay? We're hacking it. We're not joining the matrix. We're not plugging into the matrix. We're hacking it. Doggone it, if you ever saw the original movie, you know what happened to the character played by Joe Pantoliano, how he wanted to get back into the matrix, and so he basically sabotaged everybody and turned traitor on him, Benedict Arnold, so that he could be reinserted into the matrix. Well, here's the deal. We have unplugged you from the matrix, and we want you to stay unplugged from the matrix. Those of you who have zero experience working with residential real estate agents, you have a huge advantage because you don't understand the dumb games that many of them play. Okay, but we want to make sure we don't get sucked into the matrix. We want to make sure that we don't get sucked into the way that traditional real estate agents like to do things. We're not here to join the matrix. We're here to hack it. Everybody say that. We're not here to join. We're here to hack. We're here to hack. We're here to hack. Got it? All right. And then the last thing, and I think most of you guys know that. And then the last thing, and we've talked about this over and over again, but I'm introducing a new word into our vocabulary today. And the new word I'm introducing into the vocabulary is called metrics. Metric, not matrix, metrics, M-E-T-R-I-C-S, metrics. In other words, how is your business doing? Does anybody know what constitutes a fever if you or your child gets a fever? What temperature constitutes a fever? Anything over what? Anything over what constitutes a fever? That's right. Normal human temperature is 98.6. Now, is everybody 98.6? No. Some people with low blood pressure, their average body temperature is a little bit lower, but everybody kind of knows what their average body temperature is, yes? And most of it's 98.6, and some of it's 98.7, and some of it's 94, right? And you know that you have a fever when the nurse says, "Oh my gosh, your temperature is 97." If you're normally 97, you're 99 or you're 101. Like if you know that you're normally 98.6 and you're 101, you know you got a fever, right? So what is 98.6 in terms of your human anatomy? What is 98.6? It is your metric. It is your normal operating temperature. It's like if I go above this number, my metrics are off and I need to figure out what's going on. You may have 101. You don't know why. In fact, you may not even feel bad. You just kind of feel this sort of like, but now you know, okay, my metric for my temperature, my normal body temperature is off. And now I need to go figure out, okay, why is that? Do I have a cold? Do I have a virus? You know, did I injure myself and maybe got an infection, right? There's lots of different reasons why you may have an elevated temperature. But the bottom line is this, you know what your number is. That's your metric. Well, guess what? In your business, you're going to have certain metrics. I've already given you the first metric. If you put out 100 offers, how many invites should you expect the highest and best? Please type that in the chat box. If you put 100 offers in the street, how many invites should you expect the highest and best? I see 3, I see 3 to 5, I see 4. All of those are correct answers. I've consistently said 3% or 3 to 5%. So 3 to 5, 3, 5, 4, right? So here's the last bullet point I want to make. And I've said this before, but I really want you guys to understand this. When you add friction to the process, when you take too long to follow up, when you don't put the right numbers in the right boxes, when you add extra pages to your contract, you introduce friction into the process. Please write this down. Friction reduces metrics. Friction reduces metrics. I'm going to show you an example in a second, but just I want everybody to gravitate and grasp that concept. When you go from this being a hobby to this being a business, you start to pay attention to your metrics. How many offers did I get out the door? How long did it take to get the offers out the door? What did it cost me to get the offers out the door? Once the offers were out the door, how many people followed up? How many of the people I followed up with said they got it? of the people who said they got it, how many ultimately called me back and asked for a highest and best? Those are all metrics and they all mean something. And the more friction you add to your system, the more you're going to reduce your metrics. Does everybody got that? Does everybody at least conceptually understand where I'm coming from? Give me a thumbs up if you conceptually understand where I'm coming from. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Now, let's look at some real numbers. Here's friction that happens when somebody tries to plug you into the matrix. And again, why are we here? What's our intention with regards to the matrix? Why are we here? What are we going to do to it? What are we going to do to it? We're going to hack it. Okay? We're going to take an existing system and make it work for us. So here, and just listen to me first. Listen to me again. If necessary, listen to me a third time. If we can expect that 3 to 5% of our written offers that we put out in the street will in fact get us invited to a highest and best. And oh, by the way, all right, let me go find you, whoever it is that's unmuted yourself, and then we can get started again. Oh my gosh. How hard is it to leave your phone muted? It really shouldn't be that hard. Okay, whoever was muted themselves back up. So here we go again. If we have a goal of having 3 to 5% of the offers we submit get us invited to a highest and best, right? That's a standard, that's a metric, right? And oh, by the way, why is it important to get invited to highest and best? Can somebody please put that in the chat box? What's the goal of being invited to highest and best? What's the goal? Put it in your own words. Okay? Exactly. To have a conversation, to start a conversation, the first step to negotiation, negotiate, to start a dialogue. Exactly. It is only through that process of the seller saying, hey, look, I'm interested enough in the offer you made. It didn't offend me too much that I want to see if you can raise your price, that allows our agent to talk to the seller's agent and start a conversation or start a negotiation. Therefore, our number one goal in getting offers out in the street is not to buy the property. You guys heard me say that the other day. And maybe when I said the other day, it wasn't quite clear. We're not trying to buy the property on that first offer. What are we trying to do on that first offer? What are we trying to do on that first offer? What are we trying to do? Please put in the chat box. Exactly. Start a conversation. Start the negotiation. Get things rolling. That's it. Now here's the deal. On average, what you should expect is 3 to 5% of the offers you put out resulting in a highest and best invitation. And that's your goal. As I oftentimes heard said when I was a kid, trying, still in college, trying to get a job, the goal of the resume is not to get the job. The goal of the resume is to get an interview. I guess that's still true. Nobody signed my paycheck but me for almost 40 years. So I don't know what the rules of engagement are anymore, right? But if you think about it in those same terms, you're putting together a resume to get an interview, you're going to the interview to get the job. Similar thing here. We're putting out the written offers not to buy the property. We're putting out the written offers to get into a conversation, and we want our contracts to be squeaky clean and friction free. But if our metric should be 3 to 5%, and again, I'm just going to say 4 out of 100, right? 4 out of 100. Then if 4 out of 100 gets us an invite, and we are submitting 5 offers a day, 5 days a week, how many offers will we put out in the street during the course of a week? Please put that in the chat box. And yes, the answer is on the slide in front of you. All right, 25, 25, 25. Well, 4 out of 100 kind of looks like 1 out of 25. Yes. Is my math correct? If we're getting a 4% response rate, then by the time you put 25 offers out in the street, we should expect 1 invite to a highest and best. So guess what? At a basic minimum, as a new investor who's serious about this business, following this 21-day system, your number one goal should be to get 5 offers out the door every day, 5 days a week, because that will result in 25 offers out the door and should result in 1 highest and best, which means you have 1 opportunity every week to go visit a property with a contractor and see if your diamond agent, your diamond coach, can negotiate on your behalf and make a deal for you. Does that make sense to anybody other than me? If it does, give me a thumbs up. If that makes sense, give me a thumbs up. So even if you have the most demanding job in the world, if you just get 5 offers out the door every day with a 4% response rate, you're going to have 1 shot every week. And if you have used the techniques I've started to share with you on time management and time blocking, you will know that, hey, if I get an offer out the door every day, Monday through Friday, come Friday or Saturday, I should expect to get a phone call about highest and best, or Sunday, whatever. And you will have blocked out a day in your week, every week, to say, hey, by the time I hit this point in my week, I should have got 25 offers out the door. And if I'm doing it the way Sherman tells me to do it, I should get a 4% response rate, which means 1 out of 25, which means that's going to be the day I should plan to go out and see the contractor and look at properties. Now, will it be as smooth as that? Will it roll off the assembly line? No, because this is a lumpy business. But generally speaking, if you're getting a 4% response rate, that's what you should expect to have happen. Does that make sense to anybody other than me? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. So the outcome is, if we're following the system as taught by Sherman, and we're in a marketplace that's relatively normal, and again, sometimes markets get crazy, and you're getting a 4% response rate, that means 1 out of 25, hey, all I gotta do is get 25 offers out the door on some kind of consistent basis, and this week, I'll have at least 1 shot at getting a deal done. Or excuse me, I'll have at least 1 shot at a highest and best. I got at least 1 shot that my diamond coach can help me get a deal done. Now, does it mean every time you go to highest and best, you get the deal? No. But every time you get highest and best, you're not going out there empty-handed. Every time you get highest and best, you get a chance to look at the house and learn a little bit more about cost estimating. Every time you get highest and best, you get a chance to learn about a new neighborhood. So you're not coming home empty-handed. Even if you don't get the deal, you're still picking up some knowledge that you can use further on down the road. Does that make sense to everybody? Does that make sense? In other words, the getting the offers out the door is what puts your business in motion. And if you don't get the offers out the door, your business is not going to go anywhere. Does everybody understand that? Give me a thumbs up if you understand the core concept. We're not putting offers out to buy. We're putting offers out to get the highest and best, because when we get the highest and best, that's when we go in motion. Got it? And we want to go in motion, stay in motion. Now, look at this. And this is where this being plugged back into the matrix thing gets us in trouble if we're not careful. If we add friction to the process, because we wound up hiring our cousin Sadie, who's a first-time real estate agent, only been at this thing for about a month, and she doesn't know any better, and her broker tells her to do it a certain way, and therefore she tells us to do it a certain way, and we don't know any better. Things like, oh, you can't submit an offer unless you fill out all the addendum. Oh, look, you can't fill out an offer with $1,000 earnest money deposit. You got to raise it to that. Oh, look, you're not supposed to submit an offer with a one-page cover sheet that has some stuff left out. You need to explain your whole offer, and other kinds of crazy stuff that people who are in the matrix do. There's a possibility that if we add friction, that 4 out of 100 may very well drop down to 1 out of 100. In other words, our response rate might drop from 4% to 1%, or quite possibly 0. Now, let's talk about the math. If our response rate drops from 4% to 1%, then how many offers do we need to get out the door now to get that same opportunity to have a highest and best? And yes, the answer's on the slide, but I want you to type it in anyway. Exactly. Now, all of a sudden, instead of getting 100 offers out the door during the span of a month, we got to get 400 offers out the door. Now, instead of getting 25 offers out every week, we got to get 100 offers out every week. Now, rather than getting 5 offers out the door, we got to get 30 offers out the door. Do we see how, again, as W. Clement Stone said, little hinges swing big doors? If we're playing the odds or playing the percentages, we know what our metrics are. And Sherman says do something a certain way and you should expect a 4% response rate, and we do it a different way, and all of a sudden our response rate drops down to 1%. Didn't we just create 4 times the workload that we needed to create? Does that make sense to everybody? And oh, by the way, if we're looking to learn this stuff well enough to be able to hand it over to somebody else and put this on autopilot so that we can keep 90% of the money while they do 10% of the work, guess what happens if something gets mucked up in the works and your response rate, your metric, goes from 4 to 1. Now, all of a sudden, that person you were paying X dollars an hour for X amount of time now has to work 4 times as hard and cost you 4 times as much. Let that marinate for a second. This is why it's important to get the right people on your team. And this is why it's important to never forget we are here to hack the matrix, not join the matrix. And we want to make sure that we don't fall into the trap of having traditional real estate agents tell us to do things a certain way that reduce our responses, that reduce our metrics. Does everybody kind of understand where I'm coming from? Okay, you will probably understand better when you get out there and start doing this, but I want to caution everybody here and now, because we're going to start getting into automation. We're going to start getting into, okay, how do we turn this over to somebody else? And the last thing in a row we want to do is turn it over to somebody else, doing it a way that somebody else taught us how to do it. And all of a sudden our system starts to crash and burn because we're not getting the performance we need to get because our metrics are way, way, way off. And the way we keep our metrics from being way, way, way off is be very cautious about who we put on our team and making sure that we do stuff first before we start to attempt to automate it. We ought to at least understand what needs to be done, and we ought to at least understand what kind of performance we should get. And to my little friends out there who are traditional real estate agents working at traditional brokerage firms, who want to get the heck out of the traditional real estate brokerage and traditional real estate roles and become an investor and work with investors, unplug from the matrix and don't let anybody drag you back in. Just when I thought it was out, they pulled me back in, all right? If you need to change real estate firms so that you're hanging out with investors as opposed to traditional real estate agents so that you don't get confused as to what you're doing, then make the decision here and now to transition out of where you are and go find a place that is warm and friendly to investors and investor agents. Because if you're not careful, you may slip back into some of those bad traditional real estate agent habits and then wonder why your performance is suffering and your client's performance is suffering, and you're not getting the kind of returns and the kind of success that some of our diamond members at Real Investors are seeing. Don't get sucked back into that traditional way of doing things, okay? All right, let's speed this thing up. I said there was 3 rules for doing automation, and I gotta cover the 3 rules before we actually roll up our sleeves and talk about getting into it, all right? Here are the 3 rules. If you came prepared to take some notes, this is a good place right here, right now, to start taking notes. 3 rules. Number 1, never automate a process that does not work. Never, like double underscore that after you write it down, never automate a process that does not work. I cannot tell you how many times people have wasted time, energy, money because they attempted to automate something, not even understanding, is this gonna work or not? I know a guy who was running around town. He doesn't do it anymore. I think they threatened to sue him out of existence. And he was running around town selling newbie investors automated websites. And you could get an automated website for buying houses, an automated website for selling houses, and an automated website for raising money, which was a big no-no, big no-no. We we need to have a separate conversation because that's not the scope of this class when it comes time to start raising money, because there are certain things you can do and certain things you should never do. But in any event, he was running around selling this package of websites. I think it was $1,500 a piece, $4,500. But if you bought today, you could get set up for $3,000. And he sold a boatload of these websites. And he sold them on 1-year contracts. And 2-3 months into these 1-year contracts, people suddenly looked at each other and went, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm paying all this money. I have no clue what I'm doing. And then the website started breaking down and they weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then this guy was gone. Never heard from again. He got the money though. He got the money. Start off doing stuff manually. Start off doing stuff by like writing stuff down using spreadsheets. You know, there's nothing wrong with a good old fashioned Google Doc or a good old fashioned Excel spreadsheet or Word doc, or if you're using a Mac, pages and numbers. But start off doing something manual so you at least know what you're doing, and then look to automate it. And never, ever, 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 ever automate a process that does not work. Make sure it works first. Like you're out there putting offers in the street. And the second you hit 1 out of 25, in other words, you're hitting that 4% metric, you should start thinking about automating that process. You should not be sending out your own offers. Now, you don't automate it before you send them out by hand, right? But the bottom line is this: if you do what we've been teaching you, you should be at the point of getting 5 offers out the door every day within at least a day or two of signing up on board with a Diamond member coach or an investor agent, and then start getting those offers out the door and paying attention to what's my response rate. And the second you hit 1 out of 25 consistently, automate it, because you know that process works. You're ready to flip the switch and automate it. But if you are still struggling with, gosh, I sent 100 offers out and nobody called me back, we got some serious issues and we need to figure out what they are before we start talking about automating it. Does that make sense to anybody other than me? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Never automate something until you know it works. Now, let's define works. You put 25 offers out in the street and you don't get a deal. Did it work? Well, what was the goal? To get a deal or to get invited to highest and best? If you put 25 offers out in the street and you get 1 highest and best, it worked. Automate it. Us getting offers out in the street does not equate to getting a deal. What do we like? What's missing in that formula? What do we need to get a deal? If we're putting 25 offers out in the street and we're getting 1 out of 25 responding, what needs to happen next? What's the next magical thing that needs to happen if we're going to get a deal? Somebody please put that in the chat box. Somebody, anybody, quickly. No. No? Okay, I'm glad we're having this conversation. Yes, thank you, Donovan. Negotiation, conversation, thank you, Kel. In other words, we're getting the offers out the door to make it possible for our investor agent, our Diamond member coach, to get into negotiation and have a conversation. If we don't get the offers out in the street the way they're supposed to be presented, the way they're supposed to be written, they have no opportunity to negotiate on our behalf. The goal was not to get a deal. The goal was to enter into a conversation. Okay, does everybody understand that? This is like, I want to move forward and I want to move forward faster, but if we can't grasp this basic concept, we're going to be in serious trouble. The goal of getting the offers out the door, I said it 5 days ago, I said it 4 days ago, I said it 3 days ago, 2 days ago, and I'm saying it again now. The goal of getting offers out the door is not to get a deal. The goal of getting offers out the door is to start a conversation. And we should expect that 1 out of 25 will result in a conversation. Does everybody understand that? Give me a thumbs up if you understand what I just said for the umpteenth time, okay? So therefore, once you hit the goal, 1 out of 25, put that on autopilot. Now, what if you wind up getting 5 or 6 or 10 highest and best during the span of the month off of getting 100 off? That means you're beating your metric. You're doing well. Well, what happens if you get to that point and you don't get a deal? Well, then you need to take a look at your agent. You need that. What's going wrong? Because I'm sending you opportunities. Like, where's the dislike? But here's the deal. That part of your business is working fine. That's not what you tweak. If you own an NFL franchise and every single time your team scores a touchdown, your kicker misses the extra point, do you fire the quarterback? Who fires the quarterback when the kicker misses the extra point? Please tell me. Does anybody fire the quarterback because the kicker missed the extra point? I'm going to say one name, and everybody in town is going to go, oh, Billy Cundiff. First, he broke the Ravens' heart. Then he broke exactly. Fire the kicker. And why, for the life of me, the Ravens fired him and the Washington football team picked him up is beyond me. But in any event, some of y'all getting that. So once we hit that 1 out of 25, we automate that and we look at the rest of our business and say, okay, what next do we need to tweak? And maybe you need to tweak, quite frankly, your negotiator. Maybe you need to change the lineup on the person who's negotiating the deal. But again, not to get ahead of ourselves, if the goal is to get 5 offers out the door every day so that we can get the one highest and best, once you hit that metric, automate it. Automate, automate, automate. And what you want to consistently be looking at is different parts of your business you can automate. That's how you get your freedom, folks. That's how you get your wealth and freedom, your time and money. Does that make sense to anybody other than me? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, so that's rule number 1. Never forget rule number 1. Do not automate anything in your business until you've proven to yourself that it works. But you have to define what's working. If I'm marching down the field and I'm scoring touchdowns, there's nothing wrong with my quarterback. There's nothing wrong with my running back. There's nothing wrong with my wide receivers. Keep them. Don't fire them. You don't fire the whole team because one piece is busted. But if every time we score a touchdown, my kicker misses the extra point, and at the end of the game, we lose the game by 2 points, I got a problem with the kicker. I don't have a problem with the quarterback. I don't have a problem with the running back. I don't have a problem with the wide receiver. When I look at my metrics for how they performed during the 4 quarters of the game, they did well. But my kicker, oh my gosh, look at your numbers. You got to go, buddy. You got to go. That's how you want to look at your business. And you want to look at every piece of your business as you're building your business and say, okay, now that it's working based on these metrics, automate it. Automate it, automate it. You're not going to automate the whole business all at once. But there's certain things you're going to automate right off the bat. You're like, okay, I got it. It's working. Automate it. I got that. It's working. Automate it. I got that. It's working. Automate it. And before long, you're going to look back and go, wow, I'm doing like 10% of the work and keeping like 90% of the profits. This is cool beans. It's also could be cool run-ins and cool breezes because you may be saying that from a beach chair in the islands. Anybody like that idea, give me a thumbs up. Running your business from an iPad on the back of a cruise ship. Anybody like that? Give me a thumbs up. That's the goal. That's the goal. That's why we automate. Okay. Number 2, really, really, really important. Never forget rule number 2. You ready? Automation is not software. Automation is not software. I already told the story about the guy who was running around selling websites and ripped everybody off. I don't know if he's out of jail yet. But automation is not something. Now think about this. Think about this. The single greatest automation story in the history of the planet and in the history of mankind, even today, was when Henry Ford automated the assembly of automobiles, which brought the price down, the quality up, and literally created the middle class in America. The middle class in America was created by the workers at the Ford Motor Company, made Henry Ford a billionaire with a B billionaire. And everything about the Ford Motor Company and what Henry Ford built and what several companies have copied ever since, including Toyota, right? Including GMC, right? Cadillac, which is part of GMC, right? Was automation. Now you tell me, what software did Henry Ford buy in 1920 something when he created Ford Motor Company and changed the world? What piece of software did Henry Ford buy to introduce the world to automation? None. Henry Ford used people in assembly lines. Automation is not software. Please write this down. Automation is really simple. Getting somebody else to do 90% of the work while you keep 90% of the profits. That's all automation is. Now, you may use software here and there. You may use different tools here and there. You may be able to use automation and a piece of software to, maybe you need 5 employees and you can use a piece of software so you don't have to hire the 6th employee. But automation is not software. Please get that in your head. It's leveraging other people's talents, other people's energy, other people's efforts. And ideally, again, here's the goal. You do 10% of the work, you keep 90% of the profits. That, my friends, is automation. Getting other people. Now, they may use tools, they may use software, you may use websites, all of that's a given. But I see so many new entrepreneurs, especially in the real estate space, get totally ripped off because they want to rush out and spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a piece of software that they don't even know what the software does. And then the software is obsolete 6 months later. I'm going to teach you guys how to make a website in 4 days, 3 minutes or less for free. And it's a powerful website, a robust website. I shouldn't say free. It might cost you 20 bucks. Might cost you 20 bucks. Because technology changes so fast that which people would have paid $1,500 for 4, 5, 6 years ago, you can basically do for free now, or close to free. Automation is not software. Automation is getting other people, other persons to do the work so that you keep 90% of the profits, but you're only doing 10% of the work. If that makes sense to anybody other than me, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. All right? No, it doesn't make sense? Did I freeze up again? I'm not seeing any thumbs. Okay, thank you. All right, and then last, we need to make sure that we test, that we measure, that we test. Test, measure, test. I had a really good friend of mine. He's really a bright kid. I say he's a kid because he's like 20 years younger than me, but he's so much richer than me. It makes me sick. His name is Ryan Dice. He owns a company called Digital Marketer. Last year, they sold a business that they were doing. Interesting enough, they were doing conferences. They sold their conference business for like $100 million, split the money 4 ways, and then of course, any event. Bright kid, good friend. And he used to say, if you're going to be successful in online marketing, you need to test. In other words, test everything. I'm saying if you're going to be successful in the world of real estate, you need to test, you need to measure. In other words, how am I doing versus my metrics? Am I doing better this week, worse this week? How do I get better? But I want to test, I want to measure, I want to test and make tweaks and changes along the way. Crawl, walk, run, win gold medals. Okay? So in other words, we want to have metrics, we want to have checklists, and we want to have cheat sheets. Everybody got that? Please write it down. We want to have metrics. In other words, how should I be performing? And am I performing in line with the way I should be? In other words, if I'm getting these offers out the door the way Sherman says to get them out the door, am I at least getting 3 highest and best for every 100 offers? If you are, you're doing well. If you're getting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're doing exceptionally well. In other words, you're scoring touchdowns. Now, if you're still not getting deals, you may need to fire the kicker. Okay? So next, we need to have checklists and we need to have cheat sheets, checklists and cheat sheets. Okay. So real quick, I want to give you guys a quick overview. We're not going to go through these line by line today because we are going to go through several of these in the next couple of days. I just want to make sure you got them. And I want to point them out. I want to point them out to you just to make sure you got them. Okay. So everybody should have gotten their workbook for the 3rd week. Did everybody get the workbook for week 3? Yes. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. You got workbook? Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing screen here for a second. And I'm going to start sharing screen for another screen. Where are you? There we go. This is what you should be seeing in your workbook. Does everybody see this okay? Give me a thumbs up if you're seeing this okay. Give me a thumbs up if you're seeing it okay. All right. So you should see it says 21 Days Real Estate Riches, week 3, cheat sheets, checklist for putting it on autopilot, okay? And we have our AHA sheet, same as we had week 1. We have our time daily planning sheet. And by the way, guys, if you aren't using this by now, doggone it, you are really going to struggle when it comes time to putting this thing on autopilot. I'm just telling you, you're going to struggle, right? Don't struggle. You don't need to struggle unnecessarily so. But understanding how to time block is critical to your success. You put this thing on auto, like, first of all, you got to get 5 offers out the door every day. Well, if there's nothing on your schedule for writing up offers, guess how many offers are going to go out the door that day? And then after you've mastered it and you're getting to the point that you're getting a 1% response rate for every 25, which, oh, by the way, should happen within your first 21 days. It should happen within 21 days of going in motion, right? Then you want to go ahead and automate that by getting somebody else to do it, okay? But the somebody else who's doing it, you kind of want to make sure that, I'm sorry, people typing in 0. Was that a different question? I should stop looking at the chat box while I'm talking to you guys. I don't know what 0 means, but you guys can tell me what 0 means. All right. So if you're time blocking, you're going to find the time necessary to get 5 offers out the door. And then you're going to turn around and automate it and turn it over to somebody else. Well, guess what? The person you turn it over to still needs some of your time and some oversight and some direction. So let's say that it takes you, I don't know, when you first get started, 2 hours to get 25 offers out the door. Now, we're getting ready to end this class, so you already have a 2-hour block of time. You've been hanging out with me for 2 hours a day, every day for the past 21 days. So you know it's in the schedule. And it takes you, let's say, when you first get started, 2 hours to get that many offers. But after time goes on, you're like, okay, it's working, I got it. Now you turn around and delegate that to somebody else, pay somebody else to do it, okay? You're still gonna have to spend 5-10 minutes to make sure that it's going well, to check in on them, to give them some direction, to help tweak it if their performance is not as good as your performance. And in many cases, if you hire the right people, your metric and your performance will actually go up, okay? So we still need to be using that time, that daily task sheet to get control of stuff. Then of course we have the team roster, yes, right? And that helps us to define who do we need on the team, right? And if we decide that we're gonna use this 21-day system and hack the matrix, we're gonna need the buyer-broker agreement, because that's what establishes the fiduciary relationship. So I'll get through those 4 pages real quick. And then of course we get to this, the actual sitting down or having a Zoom meeting with our investor agent and going through who's responsible for what, right? Who's responsible, going through that checklist and going, okay, who's responsible for what? And there may be some things on that checklist that you're responsible for, but you're not actually doing. In other words, those are some of the tasks that you may very well delegate to your your second hire, because your first hire is really your agent, right? And then of course, any other thing that you and your agent agree to, right? Next, I'm showing this to you now for the very first time. We're not going to do it today, but we will go through it. This is your offer worksheet. So for every deal you're going to write up a contract on, you need to do your analysis. And even though you may be seeing this for the first time, these things, you know what these things mean, right? What's the property address? What's the date of the offer? What was our initial offer? What was the quality rating for the neighborhood? Was it a war zone, which means it was an F? Was it an ugly neighborhood, which means a D or an E? Was it a sort of a standard neighborhood, which means a C? Now, these things, war zone, ugly, standard, pretty, McMansion, those are sort of subjective. But this F, D, E, C, B, A, we covered those in the videos a couple of days ago. And then, what are they asking? How many days on market? Who's the listing agent? What's the listing agent company? What's the listing agent's cell phone? What's the listing agent's fax number, okay? Trust me, people still use fax machines, okay? And then, what are our comps? You know, what are the 5 properties in the neighborhood? What was the address? What was the sales price? Any notes to myself? And then my computation, my calculation. Now, here's a new calculation for you that we have not seen before. Remember how I said the Mayo formula has one sort of slight substitute? This slight substitute is for war zone properties. And then you're like, well, Sherman, you told us to stay away from war zones. what is the one instance where you may actually go into a war zone, even though Sherman said stay out of war zones? Quiz question for tonight. What's like the one instance where you may actually go into war zone looking for property? What's the one instance where that may happen? Yes, they're in Baltimore. No, you don't typically get a higher. Thank you, Mark. If you have a buyer on your buyers list who says, can you find me some properties on such and such a street, in Baltimore? Then you're going in because you're being directed to do so by your buyers on your buyers list. Does that make sense to everybody? If that makes sense, you give me a thumbs up. If that makes sense, that hey, I might actually be right now. If you go into a war zone, it's a different way of doing your mail formula. War zone properties, it's really just what's the fair market value less how much money you want to make, less your profit, less repairs. So that is that one, but that typically is like properties that are under 85,000. Otherwise, stick to the mail formula. Okay, moving right along. Next, we got a proof of funds letter. Already told you guys where to get a proof of funds letter. Go www.realinvestorloans. Yes, Realinvestor Loans. Yes, I'll put it in the chat box again. Those of you who've already done it have already got your proof of funds letter. Those of you who haven't done it are behind the 8 ball. So www.realinvestorloans.com. That's where you get your proof of funds letter. Okay. Then you include your earnest money deposit check, made payable to who? Who do you make your earnest money deposit check payable to? Who do you make your earnest money deposit check payable to? Please put in the chat box. That's right. Your broker. Do not make it payable to the seller's broker. Do not make it payable to the title company. All right. Then something new. This is new. This is new. This is new. A contract offer summary page. In the old days, we called them fax cover sheets. Now, this is just a summary page. You're summarizing what your offer is. You're summarizing. So, what's the offer amount? Is there closing help? Is there earnest money deposit? No. Now, this closing help, again, your diamond coach will explain it to you. Normally, when people are submitting offers on properties, they're asking the seller for closing help. You asking for no closing help makes your offer more attractive, okay? I would generally recommend that you not include the offer amount. Make them read, make them look for it. Make them read, make them look for it. Why? Sherman, why would you say that? Because many sellers agents, listing agents are lazy. They're lazy. And they don't always present the entire contract. Sometimes they just present a summary of the contract. Is that legal? I don't know. But I don't care. I'm not interested in getting into a legal battle with the listing agent. I just want my offer presented. If you don't put that in, they got to go hunt and look for it. Force them to do their job. And I want them to see, hey, look, this contract is really interesting. It's really squeaky clean. And the only thing we're going to debate on is the price. I want them to read the contract. I want them to read the contract. Okay. All right. And again, you're going to work with your diamond coach to help you go through this. Notice one little thing that this particular coach likes to do, and it's a really smart thing to do. This offer expires automatically after 10 days. You're not going to shop my offer. You're not going to have my offer sitting on a desk somewhere. It self-destructs in 10 days. So if we're going to talk, we need to talk in the next 10 days. Only thing I would change here, it says other items to note, all cash as is. I'd make that a whole lot bigger. To me, that should be the biggest thing on that sheet of paper. Big old handwritten letters, okay? Next, we have the contract. I gave you one, which is a sample. I didn't give it to you last week because I wanted you to struggle a little bit. This is a sample of what it should look like. If you need a model for what it should look like, okay? Beautifully done, beautifully done, beautifully done. Not gonna go over it because we've already been going over these, right? And then we get to this page, and I want to point out this page right here, which is sort of sitting in your packet longways, that should actually be a spreadsheet. That should actually be like an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Doc or a Pages if you're using a Macintosh or Mac, excuse me. And that's just a spreadsheet. So you're gonna retype those fields. It's not meant to be a PDF or a Word doc. It's a spreadsheet. Why? Because you and or the person that you are bringing on board to do this stuff, to automate this for you, should be keeping an offer log. This is just a basic offer log. This is the most basic information that needs to go, that you need to receive every day. And quite frankly, you need to also send over to your Diamond coach. And quite frankly, this is what you should be tracking performance on. So I apologize. You may have to careen your neck, but you know, it's numbered. In this case, it's numbered 1 to 22. You can number it as many as you want. This is an offer log. It's for the week of. You can do it week of, day of, month of. That doesn't matter. But you want to track the offers going out. At a minimum, you want to have the MLS number, the multiple listing service number. Your agents are not going to look up the property address when they're looking for information on the property. They're going to look up the MLS number. Get in the habit of cataloging and tracking what's the MLS number for the property. Then the address, city, zip code, what your initial offer amount was, and your initial offer date, and then some kind of a large field where you can just basically put status. You send it out on Monday, the 21st. I haven't heard anything, because again, this is a week log, right? And so by the end of the week, you should have gotten 25 offers out the door. So the most important thing you want to see is that it's numbered 1 through 25. Like if a week has gone by, you didn't get 25 out the door, that tells you something. And then having the MLS number, the address. Now, at the end of the week, you should expect to get 1 phone call. And so somewhere in your status report or your note should be, hey, got invited to highest and best. And then your notes would be, hey, got invited to highest best, went out to take a look at the property. Okay? This is the minimum amount of information you should be tracking. And once you delegate this to somebody else, this should be the minimum amount that you want to see them reporting to you as they give you your weekly reports. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Some of the questions you guys are asking me, what status, when do I follow up? That's not the subject of tonight's conversation, but we will cover it before this class is over. Okay. I'm just giving you and going over the checklists, metrics, and cheat sheets we need to automate the business. And the point that I want to make, and this is probably just as good a place as any, is you don't need to do any of the stuff if it's just you and you plan on doing all the work yourself for the rest of your life. You don't need this. But if you plan to engage other team members and you plan to delegate some of this work and you plan to put this on autopilot, you're going to need metrics, cheat sheets, and checklists. And I've given you the package, the basic package of what you need in your hands with the week 3 handout. I'm just going over it today to highlight what you got. Everybody understand that? If you understand it, give me a thumbs up. If you understand it, give me a thumbs up. Okay? Are we going to go over each one of them today? No. We don't have to, we don't have time, and we don't need to go over each one today. But over the next couple of days, I'm going to pull each one of these documents and we're going to go through each one of them. Okay? Now, if we get 25 offers out the door, 5 a day, every day, consistency without fail, and we have a 4% response rate that we're looking for, then 1 out of 25 is going to result in us being invited to a highest and best. At which point in time, we're going to go out and look at the property. So guess what the next sheet is? The next sheet is the property inspection report. In other words, this is what you take with you when you go out to meet with the contractor. Do not go out there empty-handed. Put this on a clipboard, take it with a pen. You're like, Sherman, I don't want to go meet with a contractor because I don't know. Fine. Make the contractor open up their cell phone, put you on FaceTime, and you have this checklist as you're talking to the contractor and he's walking the house. And you're asking him, okay, hey, tell you what, give me, can you take a couple of shots of the neighborhood? Give me an idea of sort of like what's across the street, what's next door. Okay, tell me what the ground, like, you show me a little video about what the grounds look like. Shoot a little video with your camera forward facing. Okay, what's the foundation? What's the roof? What's the siding? In other words, this is to make sure you don't miss anything when you're out there with the contractor. Are we going to go through the entire thing tonight? No. But this is what you want to have with, this is the checklist and the cheat sheet you want to have with you. And oh, by the way, if you don't go to the property, you still want to have this checklist and cheat sheet. If you wind up being on that beach chair or on that cruise ship and you get highest and best and you identify a contractor to go out and look at the property, you want to have this cheat sheet with you so you're making sure the contractor doesn't miss anything, even if you're not physically at the same place at the same time. Does that make sense to anybody other than me? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense to you. checklists, cheat sheets, metrics. Next, I'm giving you the document, and I'm only pointing this out today. We're not going to cover this today at all in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just telling you what's in there. This is the actual agreement you'll use to assign your deal. Some people are like, well, okay, now I got a deal. What do I do with it? We're gonna market it to our list. We're gonna get the buyer to sign off on this agreement. And oh, by the way, this can become boilerplate too, and this can also be delegated to somebody else. You can literally call somebody, text somebody, and say, hey, we got a buyer for that property. Please make sure that they fill out this document completely. Okay? Checklists, cheat sheets, metrics. We will not go into any detail today. We'll go over this at another day before we're out of here. And then lastly, and we are definitely not going to talk about this today or tomorrow, this is the contract as a model contract for sale, a sample contract for sale. Watermark, instructional purposes only, and I mean it. This is a non-border realtor in other words, this is what you probably want to think about using when we're going after non-border realtor deals. And the number one thing I will point out to you later on, not today, is how one-sided this contract is written in your favor. How one-sided this contract, most contracts are written to either favor the buyer or the seller. Very few contracts are neutral. Border realtor contracts attempt to be neutral. They are not one-sided, one way or the other. If they're designed to protect anybody, they're designed to protect the agent. Okay? So we need to have our own contract when we're going after non-border realtor deals that are designed to protect us, the buyer, not necessarily the seller. Got it? Give me a thumbs up if you understand that. Give me a thumbs up if you understand that. Give me a thumbs up if you understand what I just said. Okay? All right. And then lastly, the agreement we need to assign the non-border realtor contract. Sorry, that's not the last thing. And then the last thing, which you never, ever, 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 ever use when we're doing what I've been teaching you for the past couple of weeks, which is a whole bunch of weasel clauses to use when you're not using border realtor contract. Do not attempt to use the weasel clauses. That's why it's in big old red 18-point font. Do not attempt to use these weasel clauses when you're going after border realtor deals. And again, it is not my intention to talk about this today. It is my intention to go through these other documents in a couple of days. So all you guys are asking me questions about, when do I use the contract and what do I do with the contract? We're not talking about that today, folks. I'm giving you the cheat sheets, the checklist, and we will talk about how to use them when the time comes to use them. And we'll talk about that in the next couple of days. Today, we're talking about the first basic baby steps towards automation. Okay, everybody got that? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. So what do I want you guys to do? I want you to go through those documents today, tomorrow, and be prepared to talk about them when we need to talk about them in a couple of days. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about automation. Got it? Give me a thumbs up. All right, so share screen again. Go back to my slides. And the next part I want to talk about, which gives me great delight and great pleasure, is we have a special guest. And our special guest is none other than Amy Ransdell, who I call the automation queen. Amy and I met through Think Realty. Some of you guys know that Think Realty did a big cover story on us this past summer. And Amy's a part of the whole Think Realty scene with her company. And she's going to talk about really sort of pick up from where Jesse was yesterday, talking about automating and automation and taking a professional approach, a professional investor, a real investor approach to doing it. So Amy, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm gonna bring you on board. There you are. And
Hi.
I'm gonna give you, everybody say hello to Amy. Give Amy a, all right.
Hey guys.
And we're gonna give you the power to now share your screen. And I need to make one change before you start because I'm hearing some stuff off of my computer that's scaring me a little bit. Output, input. Cool. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Awesome. Well, first of all, I'm so excited to get to sit in and listen to all this amazing content. You guys are, Sherman's a rock star. Sherman, you're great. Thank you for having me. Seriously, you guys have no idea how amazing that content is. Maybe you do, I don't know, but you dropped a lot of, we call them nuggets in our office, right? Like total golden nuggets. It was really, really great. I'm gonna try to share my screen so I can give you guys kind of an idea of why I'm here and where I fit in with all of this amazing message to put your business on autopilot and how to make that happen. And a lot of the things I'm gonna talk about are things I utilize myself, and it's all in the world of virtual assistants. So let me do the little share here. I'm going to attempt to, hold on. Oh.
There we go.
I don't really want it to be full screen. Oh, I guess we'll go that way. All right, awesome. So let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Yep.
Got me? Okay, cool. So I am with a company called Riva Global. And yeah, we're a partner with Think Realty. Absolutely love Think Realty. I love everything that's behind them. Eddie, who built that company, is one of my favorite people, and they're all about data, and I just love data. So I love when you were talking about tracking things and metrics and all that. Like, that's totally in my love zone. Riva Global is a provider of real estate virtual assistants. We'll talk a little bit about like what a virtual assistant is, and so we kind of clear that up here in a minute. But I'll tell you a little bit about me so you can understand why this is something I'm really passionate about. So Riva Global is a virtual assistant provider, mostly for people in the real estate industry. And it got started because I am in real estate. And so is the other founder of the company, Bob LaChance. He and I are both, I'm a licensed broker, I'm a realtor, I've been a full-time investor for 18 years. And I run multiple companies, and I always share personally that I'm also a single mom of 3. And I always throw that in because I have not even a co-parent. I literally have raised my children alone for 12 years. And the only way I'm able to do all the things I do, we have a large brokerage in the Atlanta market and all these different companies, is because I utilize outsourcing and automation in literally everything I do. And so in fact, when anything comes up, the first thing I say is, who can do that for me? Like, I literally operate that way, right? So like for you guys, like write that down somewhere, put it on a Post-it note, like next to your laptop screen. And every time you're like, oh, this is not something I enjoy doing, or, oh, this is something that like, I don't feel really strong at, right? Or, oh, I've got too much on my plate, I can't get all this done. As soon as that happens, that moment, just say, well, you know what, who could do this for me, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get to know each other. So I always love to share with people, you know, a little bit about me, because this is something I truly use. And Riva Global was founded on the principle of that if we can provide a solution for lots of people having that same issue, then we have something that's gold, right? And so people who work with us, I've completely transformed their businesses. We have clients who literally work only a couple hours a day and turn over massive volume in their businesses. We have people who travel all over the world and are able to do that while their businesses are being operated for them. And I'm going to show you a little teasers on exactly how to do all that today. So a little bit more about Riva Global. We've been around for 7 years, so we are not a new company. We have several hundred virtual assistants on hire. And like I mentioned, we're in real estate ourselves. So the CEO, Bob, he's also a licensed realtor and an investor. So let's just talk for a second about what a virtual assistant is, because I think sometimes, like, and you guys are welcome. I love when you guys put your hands up. You guys are welcome to, like, you know, show of hands kind of thing. But like, you know, how many of you like even know what a virtual assistant is, right? Like, really know? Yeah. How many of you have used a virtual assistant before? Like, I'd love to see that. How many of you have worked with one before? Okay. How many of you have thought about it? You hear about it, you read about it, people talk about it, but you just haven't done it yet, right? Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So virtual assistants, what they are is anybody that can do something for you virtually. That's literally what it means. So it's anyone that can do work for you from somewhere else. And the reality is that 90% of what we all do in our real estate businesses is done by phone, right? Or computer. And if it's done by phone or computer, that means that anybody else can do it for us. right? As long as they have a phone and a computer and internet, right? So it starts to kind of really open your minds to how much you could have other people do, right? Obviously, walking through a property has to be done by you or somebody boots on the ground that works with you or for you. But all the research and all the offer making and all phone calls, all the other things, all the things that come with the process can be done by phone and computer, which means it can be done by someone else. Okay. So that's just like the most simple definition. Now at Riva Global, our virtual assistants are in the Philippines. Now, some of you might be like, oh my gosh, that's like way far away. I'm like, yep. Actually, it's truly on the exact opposite side of the country of the world from us. They are exactly 12 hours different time zone than us. But we love the Philippines, love this country because the people there, they love American culture. They speak English very well, like it's a primary language there. They value highly as core values as a culture. They value family, they value education, and they value working really hard. They love to excel at what they do. They love challenges. They love to be inspired. It's part of their culture, literally. And so you put all that together, and this means we have highly skilled, highly educated, English-speaking people who love to do a really good job at what they do, right? So it's a perfect place to work with people as virtual assistants. The other benefit is that the cost difference to hire a virtual assistant in the Philippines versus to hire somebody locally tends to be where you can get that hire at about 1/3 or even less than that of what it would cost to have someone in your office, right? So me personally, for example, I have a personal assistant in my market in Atlanta. If I were to hire that personal assistant, it would cost me anywhere from $30 to $35 an hour. I'm getting exactly the same level of service from a virtual assistant in the Philippines for 10. Right? So it is such a huge savings, right? And that really plays into all of your business. So this is a little bit of little additional things here that I'd like to point out about Riva Global, just so they can kind of hold on to those. We are a core value driven company. Any of you that are familiar with the book Traction, which many of you will as you scale your businesses, we operated on that model. So we have operations managers and client service managers and quality managers and all kinds of people also working with the VAs that all of our clients work with, so that they're very heavily supported and encouraged. And it's really an amazing system. There are lots of ways to hire virtual assistants in the marketplace. We are uniquely different because a lot of the places where you can hire a VA, they're independent contractor. They don't have any management support. They may not have good internet. They may not have good skills. They may not have been pre-screened and pre-trained, and a lot of things that we do at Riva Global. Our virtual assistants, we go through a heavy screening process for them to even become one of our employees. They have to go through pre-training for weeks and weeks and weeks to qualify to be placed with one of our clients, so that we know for sure their personalities, their strengths and weaknesses, and that they really can do the skills that they said they could do in the initial interview process. And then we match them with our clients. Like if you think like Match.com, if any of you are out there dating, right? It's Match.com for VAs, right? Like, so we get to know them very well, and then we get to know you, and we find the right fit. So you only have to interview maybe 1 or 2 or 3 virtual assistants to pick the perfect fit for your business, right? Instead of having to go out there and looking at hundreds of resumes and be like, oh, I don't know who to hire. And then you hire one and then they don't show up, or it just doesn't work out. And then they're like, oh man, I lost all that time trying to get the right VA. Well, we solve all that for you. We come in, we make sure that you get the right VA. And in the industry, we are disruptors when it comes to having the highest retention rate in our field. And we really have a high retention rate as far as match period, right? So you get a really, really good hire. I have virtual assistants who work for me who I wish they lived down the street from me because they've become my family. And they're amazing. I have one that has an astrophysics degree. I mean, they are brilliant, but working as a VA for me, right? So it's really amazing what you can have as relationships. Now, one of the things I talked about with you was what it costs to have a VA and like, you know, what that looks like. But before I talk about the investment of getting a virtual assistant, let's talk about why in comparison. So one of the things I love about Sherman is that he talks a lot about like, you know, 10% of the profit or 90% of the profit, only 10% of the work. Like those are really important phrases that he's saying. Like really listen to those and apply those, like map those across to what your life would look like for how you spend your time. So we go and we invest in things, right, that create for us time and create for us revenue, return, ROI, right? Everything I do, I'm always measuring it against what return on investment it's going to get from me immediately. I don't ever spend money. I invest money in everything. So if I'm purchasing a software tool or I'm hiring a virtual assistant or I'm buying marketing materials or I'm buying a list, whatever I do, I never look at it as a cost or an expense. I look at it 100% as this is an investment and how can I measure what return will it get me? And if it's not going to get me a return, I don't do it. Right? This is everything. That includes my personal time. Right? So for all of you guys, your time is valuable. You are valuable, right? So I want everybody to like, you know what, a little post-it note to the side right now, like just for fun, like whatever comes to your unconscious mind first, write down what you believe you are worth per hour. Or let's get even a little bit more like literal here. What is the revenue you would like to earn this year from this venture of real estate? Like, what is it you want to earn? You want to earn the $100,000 this year? I heard Sherman saying that number and how attainable that literally is for every single one of you. And it absolutely is. Well, think about that. What does $100,000 look like in dollars per hour? So let me show you what that is. If you were to work 48 weeks of the year. So that means you're going to take a month off for vacation. Okay. And you're going to work on average 40 hours a week. Let's just say, now you might not, but let's just say you did. You would be worth $56.82 an hour, or that's what you would need to earn to be able to say you earned $100,000 for the year. Now, why is that important? Well, a lot of the things that virtual assistants can do for you are things that can be done for $10 an hour. If you're doing the activities that a virtual assistant can do for you, then you're only making $10 an hour, is the way to look at that. And the reality is that if you are doing $10 an hour work, that's what your bank account's going to look like. So at the end of the year, some of you do some math on your calculator. At 48 weeks a year, at 40 hours a week times 10, what does that come out to for a yearly income? And it's not 100,000. Okay. So every time you spend an hour doing anything that can be done by a virtual assistant, my goal here is to help you realize that you need to be earning more than that per hour to hit your goal, which means that your time should be spent on the highest revenue generating activities and income generating decision-making activities for your business, and let the virtual assistants do everything else. We have a phrase in our office that you should do, do what you do best and outsource all the rest. We say that all the time in our office. So, and I say that in my personal office, not just within Riva. So within the program here with Sherman, there's a lot of things that I know that you guys are immediately being given all the skills to go do. So let's talk about a couple of those, because virtual assistants can help you do this. One of them immediately that they can do is start helping you mine the MLS for the deals you're going to make offers on. Sherman's going to be able to work with you on how to translate that criteria over to your virtual assistant, be able to give them the checklist that you want to follow for your personal systems in your office, and have them doing that research every day. They could even get on the phone and make phone calls on the deals, ask questions, do research. They can help write up and formulate the offers. They can pull comps. They can calculate that MAO that we were talking about earlier, right? I love the MAO formula. I've been teaching that for 18 years, Sherman. That's one of my favorite formulas, right? And I personally write 5 to 7 offers a day. Guess what? I don't actually write a single one of them. Guys, hear me. I write none of my offers. I get a little stack every day virtually of things I just need to approve. And I look through them in about 10 minutes. Yep. Okay. And they all get sent off, e-signed, everything, the whole deal. And it's all virtual assistant supported. Same thing. I have virtual assistants doing all my follow-ups on my open offers, because this is a very important thing. I know Sherman's going to be talking with you guys about this. Every time you make an offer, you've done work that has value. Now, if I make the offer and I'm expecting a layup, one-time, hole-in-one deal, it's not going to happen on every deal. What was it, 3 to 5%, right? So a lot of the offers that we make won't necessarily go all the way through to being accepted. But the reality is that a large percentage of them won't close with anybody else. In fact, there's a 50% fail rate on investor offers. So if an investor makes an offer out there, he gets the property and you lost the deal in the multiple offer situation and they got the deal, there's a high percentage chance that they won't close. So you following up with that person that you've made the offer with consistently keeps you on their radar. So when they're ready to find another buyer that's going to perform, they call you, right? So you can actually increase your deal flow by 70% in a year very easily just by having somebody making follow-ups on all the offers you make. And if you think about it, if you make 5 offers a day, that's 25 offers a week, that's 100 offers a month, that's a lot of follow-up, right? And so having a VA doing that for you, holy cow. So now the VA is literally paying for themselves, right? Because they're going to end up helping you close more deals this year. And all that extra money you're going to make by them doing all the follow-up for you will literally pay for the investment of that VA for years to come. So it's an amazing process. And as you scale, there's all kinds of other tasks that virtual assistants can do for you, from bookkeeping and admin to social media marketing to list generation, lead generation, building buyers lists, marketing your deals. There's just an unending list of things that can be done by virtual assistants. I love my VAs. They literally can do any end of that business as long as they're following my systems. What I thought I'd share very, very quickly, and then we'll let Sherman ask some questions and we'll just like open up and just answer, is I have a couple testimonials. If you guys will join me for a minute and just listen in. I have a couple that I selected because they're different levels of business, different levels of energy. I happen to know all these people personally and they're total rock stars. And so I thought you guys might have some fun just listening in, okay? This first one is Joanna Anderson, and it's a long one, so I'm going to cut to a certain piece of it. Let's see if we can hear it.
Just have a couple questions.
All right, I'm going to jump right here.
One, outsourcing is necessary for the level of business that I want to do. There's only so much that I can do with these 2 hands. And what I want to do requires maybe 3 types of octopus. So I need VAs to help me to do all that work. And a lot of it is busy work that is necessary, but it's not the highest and best use of my time. So I outsource and utilize other people's time and pay them for it. I use a virtual assistant because 1, is cheaper and they're more efficient. If that's their only job is to do the work that I hand to them, they're going to be much more efficient at doing it than I am with a million other tasks on my hands.
So you break it down into 2, either income producing tasks or non-income producing tasks, right? If you're sitting on your butt, you're not making any money.
That is correct. Right? That is correct.
So if you guys haven't followed Joanna Anderson, I totally recommend you guys following her. Check her out on Facebook, follow her. She's a rock star. She's an inspiration. She is a go after it, go get it investor. And so really guys, truly, she's an inspiring person. Then I thought I'd share this. This is a really young guy. He's a riot. This is Robert Nickel. He is high energy, a lot of fun. Look how young he is, right? Like he's just jumping into the marketplace. I really, really love this kid. So just enjoy his energy, okay?
Hey, my name is Robert Nichols. I am in the Jackson, Mississippi market. And just wanted to do a quick testimonial real quick. I'll be honest with you. Sherry, she chased me down for this testimonial because I've been getting so many good leads, which is a good thing. I've been having to follow with so many people and just really been closing a lot of deals with my RLM Rafi, man. He's really, really solid. But just wanted to do a quick testimonial real quick. I've been with Reva Global for about 5 weeks now. Got with those guys really good. I've closed 4 deals in a matter of 5 weeks. So I highly recommend them. If you think Texan is gonna be good for you, but you don't have time, I highly recommend getting those guys on with you. I love my VA. You can't have mine, but you can get your own. Shout out.
So he's so much fun. So I want to share one more here real quick. And follow him too, guys, if you can find him on social media. And I love her too. She's just like this huge heart. I'm gonna skip forward here for a second. And she loves our company. So like she calls us family, and it's taking its time here. Maybe not. We'll give it one more second. Well, oh, there it goes.
Hello, everyone. It's the infamous Danielle Bryant with Home River Group. Just giving a super duper shout out to our Riva family. Our partnership with Riva has been great. We love our VAs and we appreciate all of their hard work. They help us day in and day out with our day-to-day and beyond. We don't know where we'd be without our VAs and Riva. Thank you so much for such an awesome team. We really appreciate everything you all do for us.
So if you guys can follow Danielle, she's another person I would suggest. And then this last person, I'm just going to let you play for just a second. And then I want to tell you to follow her too. I'll tell you her name. This is LaDonna. LaDonna is in Naples, Florida, but she does passive income deals all over the country. And she
Why
never
did you
works.
decide to go with Riva Global VAs over, any other provider?
Easy. Well, one, because your VAs come trained. They come trained in real estate specific tasks. So you can go out to any website and pay, $5, $6, and sometimes you get what you pay for. Once I had a contractor tell me, what was it? Good, fast, cheap, pick two. And he's like, and don't ever pick cheap. So I would rather have a quality VA who's trained in real estate specific tasks that, and again, like a big component is the coach that comes with the VA. So you know that your VA is working, your VA is doing ongoing training and is learning to be consistent in your business.
So LaDonna is unbelievable. LaDonna Smith, if you haven't followed her as well, I love her philosophy of life. Her philosophy of life is Chardonnay all day. And she's become a girlfriend. Like I literally go and travel with her. And she just does everything she can to outsource every single part of her business, guys, seriously. And she's so automated at this point that she now has more than one VA with us, and her VAs train new VAs for her. So when she adds a VA, she doesn't even train the VA. Her other VAs train the VA. So you can literally go to that level. And LaDonna, I would say of the four people I just shared, LaDonna and Joanna are really way up here. We're talking a lot of volume. They've been in the business for a while. But then you saw, Robert, and I love him. Robert is like, he's new to the business, and look at it, he's already crushing it. And it's because he can feel good about having someone do the work for him. So virtual assistants, they'll eliminate a lot of the workload. They're going to take a lot of the heavy lifting off of you so you can close more deals, right? We want you to have more time to concentrate on what matters most, both personally and professionally. And the best way to do that is to have someone that's in your corner doing a lot of that busy work stuff for you, like you heard LaDonna and Joanna and everybody talk about, right? So the easiest way to get started so you can do what you do best and outsource the rest is you can go right here tonight, and actually go to realvirtualassistant.com, fill in the opt-in form. You got a couple of things that'll happen. Either you can right away book an appointment to talk with our intake team and do a 15-minute strategy call with them, or your other option is go ahead and opt in for the 100 task opt-in that's there. It's a really great long list of stuff that you can keep as a resource to help you just get creative thinking, if you will, of all the things that virtual assistants can do for you. And you might be shocked and surprised. There are things that those virtual assistants could do for you in the other part of your life, your personal life, your other business, your other job, to give you more time to work on your real estate investing business. Like, no joke, guys. So there's so many things. So I want to open that up to you. When you talk to Willie, she'll walk you through exactly how to get started. She'll walk you through all the pricing and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that kind of gave you a good overview, and then I'll let Sherman kind of grill me here with Q&A. We'll open up.
All right, so real quick, and I think you really sort of stressed the point, Amy. The main thing that differentiates you guys from other companies who provide virtual assistants is that yours are real estate specific.
Yes.
And that makes a huge difference in terms of not having to explain things like ARV, Mayo, comps, right? They kind of already come in the door knowing the lingo. I'd like to hear you talk about kind of this sort of your VA's ability to bring strategy that maybe even you're not thinking about, because your VAs are working sort of mainly with investors and also agents, or mainly investors, or sort of like explain that a little bit?
So I would say heavily investors, more so than realtors, but we do the traditional side as well. So there's a couple things that are cool. A lot of the virtual assistants at Riva will have had prior experience working for somebody in some avenue within the real estate industry. Okay. So that means that they're not green to things like real estate jargon, right? Real estate terminology. Mm-hmm. We also help with that in the pre-training, in the weeks that they go through pre-training in our system before we match them, mm-hmm. we also put them through all kinds of tests to refresh them on real estate terminology. We also even put them through classes on investor psychology, right? Like what investors are thinking and why. And like there's this really cool process we go through so that they have a pretty good handle on things. So you're not starting from scratch. You don't feel like you're having to teach somebody the complete from scratch. And you'll be surprised at how many times they'll be like, oh yeah, I've used Matrix before. Or, oh yeah, I've used that phone system before. Or, oh yeah, I've comped properties before, or research properties. So there's not as much of a learning curve. Is
gotcha.
What's cool.
But the bottom line is we may ask them to do a task, mm-hmm. and after they've done it for a week or so, they may very well come back and say, listen, you're asking me to do this, but with a previous client or with another investor, I did it this way. Yes. This way actually saves time. This way actually speeds up the process. This way actually puts more of the workload on me and less the workload on you. Do you want to try it this way instead of the way that you're doing it?
Absolutely. And so if you guys will encourage them, like when you're working with your VA, encourage them to give feedback and input and ideas, because absolutely, even if they don't have feedback from a previous investor they worked for, these are brilliant people that are working with you. And so they're going to use their brilliance to sit there and think of ways to do things more efficiently. So if they come to you and say, hey, I was researching another way to do this, allow them to give you their input. They're a teammate. They're a team member. They're not just, I think a lot of people sometimes think of a virtual assistant as like there's just some random person off somewhere doing something. No. These are really like, they're your team members, right? And they're excited about the results along with you. So celebrate the results and then celebrate them providing you some feedback on how to do things a different way.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that you guys really do this real estate niche. I had attempted to use Riva one time to help me with a book deal that I was working on in a book tour. And Willie was just flat out honest. She's like, we don't do that. She's like, no, Sherman, I would love to like set you up and spend some money, but that's really kind of outside of what we do. And it might actually wind up costing you more money because now you're paying me to get up to speed. And I just love that honesty. It was just so refreshing to have somebody go, that's really sort of outside of what we do. But if you need this and this and this, happy to do it, right? And I was just like, cool. This is really cool stuff. And
you bring up a good point. Like when you talk to Willie, like talk to her about what you're looking to have done, right? Like we're really listening. We ask a lot of questions too to kind of elicit from you like what you're looking for, so that we can be sure that we're not barking up the wrong tree. And if you ask a fish to climb a tree, it'll be frustrated, right? So exactly. We want to, right? So we do want to know where you're thinking, what kind of results you're thinking about, and it also comes down to also like the right personality fits and the right experience too. There's so many things. So just be very open and free with Willie about what you're wanting to have them do. We do have like a whole medical division. So we do have other things there. So just ask and then we'll tell you. For sure, absolutely.
I was asking her to format my book. She's like, "That's not what we do."
Yeah, that I can attest to. Now, I will say, as far as marketing your book release, you could probably get a VA to help you with some marketing. Absolutely.
She was very willing to help with that. So, guys, go ahead and put your questions in the chat box. Let me see what we got here. We got a couple of. Kennedy says, "Follow up." You've been saying that all along. Just so happens that Jesse Marks. Also was speaking yesterday about how he uses his virtual assistant. And so a lot of the things that you said today, Amy, were exactly right in line with what Jesse was saying last night. So that we love that consistency. I have a Riva assistant, and they also help set up my social media and social marketing. So yeah, when we start talking about phase 2 marketing, when we start talking about doing non-MLS marketing, the fact that you guys do in fact work with other investors and do some of the non-MLS stuff, that's a lot of real value add there.
Yeah, we have well, actually I have more than one. I personally have more than one VA helping with different of my companies, just handling social media content, social media, you know, scheduled posts, like they literally all of that. I don't, once a week, I just look at what she's doing. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. You know, I check in with her every day, but like, she handles all of it. It's amazing.
So yeah, one of the things we talked about, which you didn't go into a lot of detail on, but you're an active investor yourself.
I am.
And you own some commercial properties, right?
Ew.
Because when we were talking earlier this week, you actually had some construction noise, and you were talking about how you're building out another floor for another one of your tenants.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, you know, how just virtual assistants generically have helped you grow your real estate investing business. I think people would love to hear a little bit more about that.
So let's talk residential for a minute, because I think a lot of you are playing in that space right now, mostly, right?
Yep.
So in the residential real estate world, I have virtual assistants helping me make consistent offers. They're helping me build my network of opportunities for people to get deals from. We work with a lot. I'm a realtor and a broker, but we work with all the agents in our marketplace. So I have my virtual assistants helping grow those connections. My virtual assistants do all my follow-up work for me. I have VAs doing all of my outbound cold calling. I have VAs doing all of my outbound text message campaigning and following up with all the text message return threads. I have VAs managing all my follow-up, as I mentioned earlier. I have VAs doing social media content, branding, and messaging for me. Property research, transaction coordination. So my closing contract to close is being handled by virtual assistants. And then I would say one other thing I love that I have my VAs do is they help build my cash buyers list and market my deals. And so they're screening buyers. So like they're out there, like, you know, spidering across social media and so forth. And people are picking up that they're interested to be a cash buyer. Well, they call them and they actually screen and verify and do a little bit of work to determine what criteria the buyer is and why they qualify. Do they actually have proof of funds, et cetera. So it makes it really great for me so that when I push a deal out, I can be like a sniper, right? Instead of like throwing spaghetti against the wall, I actually have something tied in. So all of that, guys, like it's amazing. So my acquisitions manager here, he has 2 VAs that help him, right? So Oz and Ron work for him full time. Oz does all the text messaging and Ron does all the follow-up and transaction coordination. So, you know, it's really unlimited. And as I mentioned earlier, that's why I'm able to do all the things I'm able to do. I mean, it really is. And because I look at everything as an investment and how can I get a return, I'm measuring that, and I measure each deal on the costs of things that got me the deal, that cost per acquisition. And I'm looking at part of that as that VA cost. So we even creatively find ways to make extra money on deals so that it covers the cost of the VA. So really, in the end of the day, I feel like I pay nothing for my virtual assistants, like they're all free, right? So
it sounds to me, Amy, without, you know, getting you to divulge too much of your personal, you're at a 7-figure level. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you were first getting started and sort of, you know, everybody's got to go, you know, first deal, then break the 6-figure, then the 7. About where did you start thinking, you know, having a virtual assistant probably makes some sense? How far back?
For me, it was follow-up. And right, because the thing, this is what would happen, and you guys are all, so many of you will feel this when I describe this, like you'll totally see this, you'll totally understand this. So I would go to like a networking event and I would meet people, right? I get a stack of business cards and then they just like stack up on my desk, right? So it would become like a static thing, like it's just inert. It's not generating anything for me. And I'd be like, oh man, I gotta follow up with this person. Oh man, I gotta follow up with this person. So I finally decided, you know what? I can be disciplined enough to at least get that content into a database or into a spreadsheet and have someone else doing that for me. And then that rolled into, well, I'm making all these offers. I'm spending thousands of dollars on direct mail or on cold call, you know, other types of services. I'm generating leads and they're telling me, oh, well, we're not ready to sell right now. We will be in 9 months. Well, the problem would be is that it would just stack up and stack up, stack up. And so I would get up in the day. Now, this is just a personal thing because I don't really like making calls. A lot of us don't really love that, right? So I would get up and I would procrastinate on the follow-up calls and handle all the other reactionary things happening in my life and my business. And then the follow-up would never happen, right? But the gold's in the follow-up. All my coaches would tell me that. They're like, the money's in the follow-up. And I'm like, I know, but I don't have time. And they're like, well, then it's just not important to you. And I'd be like, but it is important to me, right? So anyway, so every coach says that, right? Well, it's just not important enough to you. And I'm like, but it is. Anyway, so follow up, like that really was such an easy thing to do. Once I did it, the hard part was getting it started. But once I got it started, it was so relaxing at an unconscious level of certainty in my business to just know that I'm never allowing anything to fall through the cracks. And that when I spend 2 or 3 hours of my time doing something and creating leads to follow up on, that I'm not throwing my time away because someone's actually doing the follow up, right? So that would be, if you're getting started, to me, that's number one.
So I oftentimes say, hey, look, you ought to be prepared to reinvest about 10% of your profits to make your business grow.
Absolutely, if not more. But yes, at the minimum 10%.
Yes. So
Right
if
back
I
in.
start off and I wholesale 2 deals a month,
Mm-hmm.
and in our marketplace, 2 deals a month looks like about $10,000 in profit.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just doing phase 1, if I move into phase 2, that number can easily triple or quadruple, because average profits on phase 2 deals is about 20 grand. Average profits on phase 1 deals is about 5 grand. So if I get really, really good at implementing the 21-day system and just do what Sherman says, and I'm getting the offers out the door in a consistent sort of way, I should expect to do about 1 to 2 deals a month. That's about 5 to 10 grand. If I put that on autopilot by engaging a virtual assistant who understands what I'm doing, understands the business,
Mm-hmm.
then I potentially have now the opportunity to now start going after those phase 2 deals.
Yes.
And then adding one of those $20,000 profit deals, maybe not consistently every month, but every other month. Now I'm doing about $30,000 a month in business.
Yep.
And my philosophy is, go ahead and take 3,000 out of the 30 and reinvest it to make your business grow.
Yes.
Can I get a virtual assistant for $3,000 a month?
Absolutely. So here's the thing. We asked this question in our booking forms. We're like, listen, to hire a virtual assistant is going to be anywhere from $800 to $2,000 a month. Can you swing that? That's what we ask people, right? So you can start with as little as $800 a month, $848 a month. You can have a dedicated virtual assistant working for you full-time, 20 hours a week, meaning they're not distracted by anything else. They are 100% dedicated to you and to your business, right? For 4 hours every single day. It's only $848 a month consistently, right? And this is, again, a trained and coached and supported VA. And so, yeah, so if you're taking 10% of your profit off of just, that the 1 to 2 deal type scenario, you've more than covered the cost of the VA. And within, like you saw Robert Nichols there, 5 weeks in, he's got like 3 or 4 deals he's closing, right?
Yeah. I mean, so the reality is, if I'm doing 20 hours a week, you said 20 hours a week,
Mm-hmm.
I ought to be able to get a virtual assistant who's got real estate skills, doing somewhere in the order of 3 to 5 offers
Easily.
an hour. So in 20 hours, I ought to be getting somewhere close to 60 offers out the door a week.
It's possible.
That's way ahead of the 25 minimum I'm talking about, which dramatically improves your chances of getting not just 1 deal a month, but 2 deals a month. And then as you get that phase 1 off the ground, very easily transition into phase 2. Now you really do need a virtual assistant, but it's really the phase 1 activity that they're doing 90% of. That's basically, like you said, paying their salary.
Yep.
They're paying for themselves right out the gate within the first month, which then frees you up to go after some of the phase 2 and now create the leads, generate leads, need social media. You don't need social media when you're doing phase 1. You just need somebody to get the offers out the door. But I want people to understand, based on what Amy's telling us, based on the level of skill and the level and the quality that you're getting, they ought to be paying for themselves within that first month or 2, which then allows you to really start to expand your business.
I'll share a quick evidence on that. So we have an agent now, not an investor, an agent on my team. So I also mentioned I'm a brokerage. I have 104 members here. And so one of our agents, he was overwhelmed. He had 2,800. Now this guy had been working for a while, 2,800 leads sitting in his CRM.
Wow.
0 follow-up. Okay, now 0 follow-up. So he does a coaching session with me and I'm like, Gio, dude, like I love you, but like everything you're doing, stop all of it. You're going to do one thing this month. One thing, dude, one. I said, you're going to hire a VA. Don't talk to me again unless you've hired one. And all they're going to do, because you're going to train them, work with them this month, is to do your follow-ups to just those leads. And he's like, oh, but I'm supposed to do all these other things. I'm like, no, you're going to do that. And so he did. And guys, he closed 3 transactions that month.
Yep.
Really because of following up on gold that he already had in his list. And you know, when he comes to me and he says, wow, he goes, he loves his VA, Kai loves his VA. He's like, I have paid for my VA for 2 solid years off of 1 month of activity. So
There you
now
go.
he has a full-time virtual assistant. She's a 40-hour VA. He has a full-time virtual assistant that's going to be dedicated to him for 2 solid years off of 1 month's investment.
Awesome.
Like that's how to look at that. So it can be very powerful, guys. Like really work this to your advantage.
Excellent. So questions, if you guys got questions, I got one from Kennedy saying, do VA sign NDAs to protect our deals? Is that much of an issue?
It's not much of an issue, and I can go into details like from the fact of how we run our company, that the VAs value their jobs so much at Riva Global. We treat, and in the world of the Philippines, in the world of virtual assistants in the Philippines, which is the primary employer in the Philippines, we treat our VAs so well that we have a waiting list for them to be on our roster. We're known for this. We do a lot of charitable things. We help them with scholarship programs and credit repair programs, and we really, our core value is family first. So we treat them very, very well. And so for that reason, they don't do anything to put their jobs in jeopardy. Now, that being said, as a client, you can have your VA sign one if that makes you feel good. And we have had clients do that.
Okay. Joan says, how do VAs in the Philippines call and follow up when there's a 12-hour time difference? That's a great question.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So they work Eastern Standard hours. So they work during the night there. And believe it or not, they love it because especially those that live in the Manila area, it's not really safe to be out on the streets there. Commuting back and forth to a job is not something they want to do. So they love the idea they can be in their homes with their family, near their family, and they work during the night. So like Ron, who's my executive personal assistant, I have a couple of Rons. Ron Malabanan, he is my personal assistant. He comes to work at 8 a.m. every day, which is 8 p.m. for him. Right. And so he's with me all night for him. Right. So he'll say good morning to me and I'm like, yep, good night. Because that's but so yeah, Eastern Standard hours is generally what all the VAs will work. And you just want to make sure that you're letting, again, our intake team know what you prefer for hours. So,
you know, I kind of like the fact, I mean, it's just me because I'm a bit of a night owl, that I can hand somebody an assignment at midnight, go to bed, and when I wake up in the morning, it's done. I like that idea personally, but
very possible. Now remember, they're working actually during the daytime, right? So like I give him stuff, I can give him stuff at midnight, but he's not going to start it till my time, 8 a.m. right?
Okay.
But yeah, but now sometimes he'll do stuff at weird hours like that, and I will show up in the morning and he did stuff. And I'm like, Ron, you have to sleep, honey. Like go to sleep at some point. But yeah, no, you can, but it is very customizable like that. So again, let our intake team know. We have teams that have their VAs working in the evenings. My cold calling team works in the evening until 8 p.m. Eastern time, because again, the calling ratios tend to go up in the evening, right? So actually I take that back. They call till 10 p.m. because they're calling Pacific Coast still. So again, you communicate with what you're looking for.
Okay. Mark says, what access do VAs have to phone lines? Do we have to provide a phone number? What phone service do they actually typically use? Are there any backups if the VA is out?
Yeah, really, really good question. And that's 2 very, very good questions, actually. So let's start with phones. One of the things that I recommend with technology now, it's so awesome. You know, we don't have hard lines anymore, right? Everything's what we call VoIP, which is voice over internet phone, right?
Right.
So you want to get some sort of phone system. It could be Google Voice, which is relatively free almost, depending on what you're doing. I use something called Ring Central. That's what we use for our team. We use it actually for the entire Riva company. And it enables us to have an app. So the VA they all have smartphones. They put the app on their phone and they call through the app, but it's a local phone number to me, right? I control and I own the phone number. So if I ever wanted to have that phone number forward to someone else, I have the flexibility to do so. And the VA is calling through that. Now there's other programs out there. I can go through a ton of lists, and I'm sure Sherman has some of those.
We use phone.com, and it's very, very, very similar. And also has the app you can download. And we can, and you know, while I don't know much about Ring Central, what you guys do, I can take 2 minutes and walk somebody through phone.com, and it's a similar kind of thing where, like, it's exactly like you said, with voice over internet protocol, VoIP, nobody has landlines anymore. You're not paying toll charges anymore. All of that's out the window. So literally somebody who's half a world away, nobody even knows the difference, especially if they're English speaking.
Right. And if you think about it too, like they're on, guys, I mean, this is going to sound kind of silly, but from a communication standpoint, they're on all the same apps we are. Viber, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger. Like there's so many ways to communicate now that it really doesn't matter where they are, right? So consider that too. There's a lot of free platforms to be able to communicate with them on to outside of phones. And then the other thing I love about phone.com does this as well as Ring Central, a lot of the other tools, is that I'm able to pull a report as to how many calls my VA is making, how many calls they make each day, how much time they are on each phone call. I can even record calls and listen in for training purposes. So it's really, really powerful to be able to use the VoIP systems, because as a training platform and as a what's what I'm looking for, as an assessment platform, I can actually verify that they did the work they said they did.
I can see right now, Amy, we're going to have you back and just talk about some of this voice technology stuff and setting these tools up. I can see that. I can see it right now. What about the second half of Mark's question about, are there backups if the VA is out?
Yeah, so for phones, the thing is everything's internet based. So the issue is internet, okay? So one of the things that we do in our screening process for hiring the VAs is we do verify that they have a fairly new or as recent as possible operating system for their whatever PC or laptop they're using. And we verify their internet strength wherever that they live in the Philippines. Now, it doesn't mean that on occasion the internet doesn't go out, and that even's happened there in Baltimore, right? Like you have a really bad storm, we may be without internet. It happened here. We were down for 3 days recently because of a bad storm that came through Atlanta. So, that can happen in the Philippines too, right? So they're humans just like us. Things happen, but most of the time, internet's fine, right? Everything's over the internet.
MJ says, since the VAs are employees of Riva, can they be moved from one client to another? Does the investor have any input in this decision?
Oh, very good question. So when you choose the VA, you're going to go through a selection process. We give you 2 to 3 to interview. You'll pick the one that you want to have as your VA. That VA stays with you until you fire them. I mean, not that you would want to, right? But like they're your VA. They're not a pool of VAs where they're managing multiple clients. They work for only you, okay? If anything were to ever happen to that virtual assistant, again, life happens, and they, for whatever reason, they had to leave Riva, and it happens, right? Then we immediately step in to replace that VA as fast as possible with somebody equally skilled. So just to know that too, but you're not sharing your VA with anyone. Now, those of you that do hire VAs for 20 hours a week, well, the reality is that VA is working for 2 investors, but they never overlap the time.
Gotcha.
So like if you're an 8 a.m. to 12 noon person, they work for you during that time. And then maybe at 1 o'clock until 5, they'll start working for that other investor, because all of our VAs are full-time for us. But if you're only hiring for 20 hours, then we're obviously pairing them with someone, okay? But they never overlap. And they're not allowed to moonlight, meaning that they can't on the side take on other clients everywhere else. They're not allowed to do that. When we find that out, we let them go.
Very good. All right, guys, anybody else have any questions for Amy before we let her get out of here? So are you starting to see who handles employee benefits?
Employee benefits. So all of the payroll, all of the employee benefits, all of that's handled through Riva because they're our employees. So we're paying their health insurance. We're doing all kinds of things, vacation pay, like there's all kinds of stuff that we do for the virtual assistants. Now, you guys have the opportunity, and we encourage it, to bonus your VA, to do, there's all kinds of things that we have in place for you to do that. And I suggest it, like, it's a big deal in the Philippines. You give them, you do a deal and you make, $5,000 profit, and you give your VA a $50 bonus. That's a lot to someone in the Philippines. I mean, that's a lot. So, and it really makes them feel amazing, but it's totally up to you. It's not required. We will ask you on occasion on certain American holidays and so forth, do you want to let your VA be off that day with paid time off or not paid time off? Like we'll ask you, your client service manager that's assigned to you will ask you those types of things on occasion.
Cool.
So.
And sounds like the client service manager helps to interface if we're having some issues.
They do. The CSMs are amazing. So your CSM that will be assigned to you is like a coach. They're checking on the engagement and of your VA all day. They're checking on your engagement, right? They're keeping communication open. They're helping guide and so forth. I mean, they're the person you want to go to. That's your first line of defense, your first point of contact if you have any issues or challenges or questions. The CSM is going to immediately act on that for you. So they're like your concierge, if you will. I prefer to call them that. But they really help at all ends. So my CSM for my executive assistant is Alma. Alma saves my day all the time. She's great.
So I noticed there's a free report. There's a download, talks about 101 tasks a virtual assistant can do for you. Give folks some ideas. That's guys, that fundamentally is your homework for tonight. Because I know some of you, I'm sort of hitting you cold. We're hitting you cold with this whole concept of a virtual assistant. And we're not saying that everybody who's in this class is ready for or needs to take on a virtual assistant. What we're saying is, what I'm saying is, at some point, if you're doing this correctly, you're going to have some consistent things that need to get done that you don't need to be doing anymore. And you need to put them in the hands of somebody else who can do 90% of the work for only 10% of your profits. That's how your business is going to grow. And that's the key, putting certain parts of your business and then ultimately as much as possible of your business on autopilot. And if you can get a virtual assistant on board for 20 hours a week, understand that, 20 hours a week, and they're basically paying for themselves every time you close 1 or 2 deals, there's a whole lot more deals you can get them to help you on above and beyond that 1 or 2 deals a month. Put this part, this phase 1 on autopilot, and then get them helping you on other things like cultivating your buyers list, following up on your buyers list, like finding who on your buyers list is actually interested in being a private investor. So now you can start inviting people to Zoom meetings to become private investors with you, like finding what neighborhood specifically your buyers list or the people who are truly buyers on your buyers list want to go look at, and then helping you identify and target and do direct marketing and social media into those neighborhoods. So this is somebody who can come on board very early on because they're so cost effective. You guys know in the Washington, D.C. area, we're paying $15 an hour minimum wage, but it's not $15. It's all the other stuff that goes along with it. At the end of the day, you're paying closer to $18 an hour for somebody you got to train. Here's somebody you're getting for $10 an hour, and they come trained and can probably give you some ideas you're not even thinking about. And if you put the phase 1 in motion and do what we've been talking about in this 21-day course, you ought to be in a position to hire a VA in about 2 or 3 weeks. Seriously. And you're going to want to hire somebody to start putting those offers out the door, because that's the only way you're going to get them out the door on a consistent basis to create the opportunity for your diamond member coach to negotiate and bring that fish in the boat. So again, we're having this conversation not because all of you guys are ready to do it, but you guys need to be thinking in terms of, when will I be ready to do it, and pull and flip that switch as quick as possible so that's a seamless transition. That's why we're having this conversation now.
You're giving yourselves the gift of time freedom. You're giving yourselves the gift of efficiency so that you can enjoy more of what matters most, both in your personal life and your business life. Like, it's really a gift to yourself. So invest in giving yourself space to do more of what's taking you down the path of what you want for your lives next. All of you have invested in this program because you want something more for your lives next. Okay, so let's support that. Let's tell ourselves at an unconscious and conscious level that we really want that goal. And this is one way that you can do that. Support
so
that.
Question is, will the assistant have access to HomeSnap? Marcia, they'll have access to HomeSnap and more, because I'm highly confident that after you have been working the 21-day system for about 4, 5, 6 months, and you've got the deal flow going because you're leveraging the value of a virtual assistant, you're going to look at yourself and say, you know what, maybe now's the time to go get my real estate license. I never recommend to any investor you get your real estate license first, because just getting the real estate license is going to require commitment on your time and on your money. But once you are in the business, you begin to realize, gee, Sherman has given me a certain level of access into the MLS, but I want full-on access because there's a whole lot of tools, which, oh, by the way, we're going to talk about before this class is over. A very powerful tool. Amy, do you guys have Remine down in your market?
Remine, yes.
That is like, oh my gosh. And I don't know what people pay off the street for that, but Remine is available for free to real estate agents. We can't give that to you as a part of HomeSnap because it's not a part of the package, but Remine allows you to go find people who are in foreclosure before it hits the street. It's a pre-foreclosure sort of crystal ball to see people's situations, and it's got all kinds of data, all kinds of metrics. And that's one of the tools you want to have in your hands once you start, you know, once you become a full-time investor or start moving towards being a full-time investor, because that just, you know, that just explodes your business. Now, here's my point in all that. This class is about getting your first deal done. This class is about having a consistent way to get deals done and putting it on autopilot. And everybody who is listening to Amy should realize, oh my gosh, with a company that's going to give me somebody who's a 20-hour employee versus a 40-hour, I can afford that person sooner rather than later. And when I bring that person on board, I'm actually going to probably double, triple, quadruple my business. At that point in time, call it 6 months down the road, a year down the road, 2 months down the road, depending upon how ambitious you are, you may very well say to yourself, you know what, now's time to go get a real estate license. When you get a real estate license, you get to hire an assistant. And you and that assistant have full-on access to the MLS, including tools like Remind. At that point, you absolutely positively want to turn that over to your VA, because now your VA can actually be doing deep data mining and finding deals before they hit the street.
So my Oz is an unlicensed assistant, guys. He has access to my Remind.
Yeah, and so the only reason why I have not shared that with you guys yet is because I want to help you get the first deal done. And if I start talking to you about how to blow your business up from 6-figure to 7-figure, quite frankly, some of you guys are going to get scared. If we really talk about the power that you have in your hands once you decide to get your real estate, some of you, it's just going to scare the bejesus out of you, because you're going to be like, well, what? Really? Why didn't you tell me about this, Sherman? I'm like, because we were trying to get the first deal done. So in other words, and we can talk about that before this class is over, and I'll even give you guys a demo of Remind. But again, that kind of stuff was beyond the scope of this 21 days, get your first deal done. What I want everybody to walk away from today understanding is you're in a position to hire talent that you would normally not even be able to touch until you were doing $200,000 a year. Because if you try to hire somebody in the DC area, you're paying 18 to 20 bucks an hour and you're still training them. They still don't know anything about your business. With Riva and the relationship we've established with them, they're willing to take somebody and split them. They're doing it. You don't have to do it. They're splitting them between two investors, which means you can get to this virtual assistant talent sooner. And by virtue of the fact that they're in the Philippines and this company is specializing in real estate and real estate related virtual assistants, you can hire talent that you normally couldn't touch until you were 2 or 3 years in the business. That's the point hopefully people are walking away with tonight. Oh my gosh, I can hire somebody sooner rather than waiting until I've consistently done X thousands of dollars across my desk. And they're taking care of the W-2, they're taking care of the payroll, they're dealing with the IRS, they're dealing with the Maryland unemployment, or whoever the equivalent is in the Philippines. You don't have to deal with none of that stuff. And for somebody who at one point in time had 68 employees on a payroll, and somebody said to me, do you ever want to go back to, are you out of your mind? I love the fact that I have, at this point, only 3 full-time employees. And I'm sitting here listening to Amy going, maybe my next hire needs to be a VA, because I can get, quite frankly, twice as much talent for half the price. And somehow we got to work it out, because I'm just fascinated of the idea of giving somebody a stack of work to do at midnight and waking up in the morning and it's already done. But Amy's like, no, you can't do that. They got to work East Coast. But I just love that idea. Because nobody on my staff does it now.
You know what? And I'll tell you something, Sherman. For those of you that end up growing your team in Baltimore, right, and in your own base or wherever you're at,
we're kind of all over, but a big cluster are right outside DC and Prince George's County.
Outside DC. Okay, so wherever you guys are, like as you grow and you do have people in your local office, it is so empowering to them to offer them virtual assistants to support them in their roles. Like if you ask them, what do you do that makes the highest revenue for our company? And they'll tell you. They're like, well, this. Well, what if you had more time to make more revenue for the company? How would that make you feel? And they're always like, oh, that'd be great. So then you give them a VA, so it frees them up to do more.
Well, I'll just tell you our own firsthand experience. And I said to somebody in this group, in this class a couple of days ago, business is lumpy. Everybody wants to think it's just like, you can just sort of order exactly, it's like going to McDonald's in the drive-through. Business doesn't work that way. It's lumpy. And I'd tell you just, I almost hate to admit it, but we have now attempted to hire 3 part-time bookkeepers, right, in the past year, and every one of them unfortunately ended in disaster, right? It's because you get a certain amount of workload, or you're moving offices or stuff, and we bring somebody in, we put them through the background, we train them, And just when they're getting up to speed, they're like, oh, got another job, or, oh, right. And having virtual assistants as an option, even when you have key employees, and like, I've got employees that have been with me for, Lisa's been with me for 17 years. Barbara's been with me for 12 years. Karen's been with us for 5 years. So it's not like we have this huge turnover, but every once in a while, the workload is more than the core staff can handle. And so the ability to have trained virtual assistants who understand the language, you know, I don't just mean the English language, I mean the real estate language. That's another language in and of itself, and get what we're doing. I'm now sort of like slapping myself in the head with my VA moment going, why in the world do we bother with Indeed and some of these other hiring services when I really should have done is just call Riva and go, okay, guys, you know, can you give us somebody who can do this, this, and this for this period of time? And you probably could have done it, and I probably could have saved a boatload of money and a lot of grief. So even I have some things to learn about stuff I know. So anyway, Amy, I'm gonna give you the last word, and then we're gonna do our case study, and then I'll give these guys some homework and get the heck out of here. What's the one thing that you really want us to know that you haven't already told us?
Oh, that I haven't already told you.
Or tell us again. Maybe we need to hear it twice.
I love redundancy. So I love redundancy, right? Because we're only ready to receive what we're ready to receive when we're ready to receive it. So here we go. So I would say that all of you guys, it's worth, you know, going through the effort of just outlining what you'd like to have a VA do for you, number one. Number two, once you know that this feels like the right decision for you, we're ready when you're ready. Go to realvirtualassistant.com. Go ahead and either book a strategy session, or at the least download that PDF. It's a long list of just stuff, and really just to help you sit there and circle and think, oh, I didn't even know a VA could do that for me, to kind of help you just think creatively. But allow our team to walk you through the steps, right? So if you go to realvirtualassistant.com, 15-minute strategy session, like for every one of you guys, you've made a goal. You know, I told you earlier, you know, what do you want to be making per hour? What do you want your net revenue to be for this year? Whatever that is, guys, it's time to take stuff off your plate to clear time to earn that money. So, realvirtualassistant.com. Willie is our intake person, so the primary person. You guys, Sherman's talked to Willie before. She's amazing. You think that she's in California. She's not. She's right. She's in the Philippines too. And let her know that you came from Sherman's group. She'll treat you extra special. And a lot of you can follow me. You're welcome to follow me on Facebook. And, you know, hit me up in a private messenger, and myself or the most appropriate team member will try to get back with you as soon as possible. I would love to get to know all of you. I'm excited to watch you guys be on this journey, and I get to be a part of it a little bit. So it's great.
Awesome. So let me go through a couple comments and then we'll let you go. Marsha was asking, will the assistant have access to HomeSnap? Absolutely, Marsha, you can give them access to HomeSnap, same one you have. But again, the real power is if and when you decide to get your real estate license and you make them your assistant in the MLS, and that's a whole nother level of being able to run a business really, really efficiently. Lorenzo says it's great information, needed to hear. Mark said, did I understand correctly? Minimum is 20 hours per week. Yep. So yes, they are finding somebody else to handle the other 20 hours. And again, the rate is $10 an hour. So it's like the most cost-effective way you could bring somebody on board, without a doubt. Carl says, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Thanks, Sherman and Amy. You're welcome, Carl. Joe Shaw says, thanks, Amy, you're a rock star. Trinita says, Amy, this was awesome. Joe says, this is a no-brainer. I totally agree with that.
Agree with that.
This is great information. All right, so guys, let's give Amy a hand. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, everyone. It was so great to see all of you.
And tell you what, if you want to give control back to me, and I've got 2 more slides, and we'll let you guys get out of here. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Sherman, so much. You guys rock it.
We are going to have you back. I'm not kidding. We're going to have you.
I would love it. You guys, I'd love it. So I'm anytime.
I think if we have you back and maybe give you a little more time, I apologize for eating up so much of your time, and just talk to us about different ways you're using them in your business. I think a lot of us are going to have some aha moments, to be honest.
Yeah, no, seriously. Sometimes that's sometimes the hardest part is like, you know, just kind of, because if you haven't done it before, you're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to have them do. So we can definitely get rid of all of those challenges very simply.
Very cool. Thank you.
Guys.
Appreciate you. Talk soon. All right. So again, understand Amy is a full-time investor with a 7-figure business. When she and I were talking the other day, she kept on getting interrupted because the contractor wanted to know how to, a couple things that building out another 5,000 square foot in the office building she owns. So she's a serious player. She started like many of us in residential real estate and now has a 7-figure, including commercial real estate. And trust me, she knows what she's talking about when it comes to using virtual assistants. So we'll definitely have her back to share some more about that. So again, your homework assignment, guys, for today, just go to Real Virtual Assistant. That's the website they set up. You'll see the Real Investor logo right in the middle of it because we have a partnership with them and they're going to give you guys a discount. We're still working through what that looks like. I've had a couple conversations with them about maybe, you know, dropping the 20 hours down to 10, but we haven't gotten there yet to make it even more cost effective, but we'll figure out something. So go there, download the white paper they have on the 100+ tasks you can have done for you by virtual assistants, and just start thinking of some ideas. And what we're going to do over the next couple of days is talk about how to get your business set up and running. And we're going to go through the checklist, we're going to go through the cheat sheets, and I'm not only going to show you how to use them for you to use them, but I'm going to show you how to use them so that you can turn around and immediately, as soon as you're able to, start getting somebody on board. And I don't care whether you start with, you know, a couple of kids in the neighborhood, or you get started with, you know, maybe a family member, although I don't necessarily always recommend it. But as soon as you're able to hire professional talent, and I got to tell you, I've seen a lot of people who offer virtual assistants. Number one, the Philippines is the place to go. Not only do you have a more cost-effective base, but you also have English speaking, English thinking. I mean, it's not just enough to have English speaking. You know, some of you guys have talked, you know, if anybody who's bought an airline ticket, you know, in the past couple of years, and you get somebody who's in India or Pakistan, they may be English speaking, but they're not necessarily English thinking. And I'll just leave it at that. Philippines are English speaking, English thinking. In other words, they love American culture. They're right in line with American culture. And I talk to Willie on a regular basis and have done so for years. And Amy was right. I didn't think she was in California. I thought she was in Massachusetts. But she's right in line with what's happening in our country, what's happening with the topical issues of the day. You're not having to explain anything. And that's exactly the kind of person that you want to have on board. They're able to split that person between two different investors where, again, you have dedicated hours so that you're not bearing the full burden of having to have somebody 40 hours a week, which means you can get somebody on board sooner rather than later. You don't have to wait until you're 6 months, a year into this business. So we're going to be going through the checklist, the cheat sheets, and talking about how to do these things, how to set these things up with the specific intent and specific purpose that at some point in time, you're going to hand it over to somebody else. And my ideal is to have you hand it over to a professional virtual assistant of the kind of people, of the kind of talent that Amy was talking about tonight. So that's why I want you guys to get to know this company sooner rather than later. That's why you need to go ahead and get in their system, get your name in the database, and if something changes sooner rather than later in terms of our ability to even move that number around a little bit, we'll do it. And some of you guys who are already signing up for the apprentice program, one of the things that we're going to be talking about in the apprentice program is how do we bring a virtual assistant on board as a part of the apprentice program experience. And some of you guys may very well decide, hey, we've worked so well together over this 90-day window, maybe when the apprentice program is over, we will still band together and share and tap the talents of a virtual assistant, which means now all of a sudden they're costing you peanuts if you're splitting it 2 or 3 ways or 4 ways, right? But again, I don't want to get the cart before the horse. This class is all about getting that first deal done. This class is all about putting a system in place so that you have a consistent flow of deals. And this class is all about how to put that thing on autopilot, which is why I wanted to have Amy come on and talk about what they're able to do for us. And we'll be talking over the next couple of days as we go through the checklist, the cheat sheets, on how do we first learn how to do it and then very quickly teach it to somebody else. And my strong suggestion is you teach it to your kids so they can go off and do business, and you also teach it to your virtual assistant so that you can put this thing on autopilot. Does that make sense to anybody other than me? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. All right, so your homework for tonight is go to realvirtualassistant.com, download that white paper that's going to cause you to have to put in your name and email address. Do it. It's good for you anyway. And like I said, if the situation should change, that they're able to offer some bonuses or some discounts or whatever, and we're still having those conversations, you'll know about it because you signed up and they'll tell you guys first. Okay? All right, last thing we got to do, we got a case study. I want to show this real quick, and then we're going to get out of here, and you guys can meet me back in the Facebook group to ask me any questions. So here's our case study for today.
something I started 30 years ago, watching all the old house shows, and started doing my own work in my own homes, and just sort of picked it up from there. When I met Suzette, luckily she had about as much interest that I did, and she's the one that originally got us signed up with Realinvestors, and
it's been a really good learning experience. And the first step was to stop being afraid of getting involved in real estate and making, that step of buying a house and getting it ready to either rent it or sell it. Either way, it's a great experience. Because when we're doing the apprentice program, I had told everybody at work that I was looking for a house. So after the apprentice program was over, my coworker said, "You still looking for a house?" And I said, "Sure." And she gave me the details because her husband's coworker was selling the house. They didn't have it listed, they didn't want to list it. They wanted to sell it as is, and so we came to look at it, and I told Nick about it. And
the contractor that we were using is actually the friend that she's speaking of.
Right.
The contractor, he was going to a lot of the best and finals with us. And, by the time that program ended, he's the one that actually knew the people that lived or owned this house. So he came to us and told us that it was here, and we contacted them and really built a rapport with them. There was a lot of things they had in common with us, and before you know it, there was the deal. They didn't. They wanted a quick and easy, quick 30-day settlement, and we were in a position, where we didn't have to borrow the money. We were able to just pay cash for the house and get it done, which made it very simple. And lo and behold, here we are, new homeowners. We ended up purchasing for $92,000, and we got an estimate right now. It's just a little under 50. It's rounded up to 50. So looking at that right now, we're sitting at a very good number. Let's use the 140, 150 range just for a little fudge factor. We know that the comps in this area, and let's call them low comps, we figured even if we sold the house for about 300, we stand to make somewhere between 150 and 160 off this house. We could probably go up a little higher because we plan on doing a pretty decent rehab on the house. But in order to get a quick, good sale, I think those numbers are pretty good. I think our one biggest factor, one thing that helped me is when I was talking to the owner here, and they told us about the adjoining properties that belong to the same family, and they gave us the right, the option to purchase those lots as well. The 3 more lots available next to this one are 3 acres each. So we're hoping that it's going to be more than just this one property that we're going to end up working.
The most difficult thing was because we hold a full-time job and trying to do this on the side and having kids at home and, trying to balance my regular life with, trying to come up in here and getting together with the owners of the house, and then vacation, and then summertime, all that was together. I guess just getting together with the people that own the house to be able to pump the property and see it, and then trying to, also to empty up the schedule a little bit to be able to come here. I think that was the hardest part for us.
People always say they don't have time, and we're as busy as anybody. We made the time. Again, we both work full-time jobs. I travel a lot with my work, and so it's, a lot of late nights. We're up to 11, 12 o'clock every night looking for deals and putting out offers and just doing whatever we can. We're coming to Realinvestors on Saturdays, and Sundays we're out looking and doing everything. So that's been the most difficulty, is trying to balance our life, our regular family life with this. And right now we figure we'll suffer a little bit to get the long-term gains. That's kind of interesting. I think it gave us structure more than anything, although I felt that I was pretty knowledgeable with the real estate, but just having a roadmap. I think that was really important, to be able to just flip the book and say, okay, this is what's next, this is what's next. And we've attended so many classes and tried to grasp as much as we could, utilizing the book. And, we've done the apprenticeship, we've done the rehabbing class, we've done the commercials. So our plate's been full for a year and a half. And I think using that blueprint has just been a tremendous help for us.
and it forces you to do one thing every day that you normally wouldn't do, but because you have to do it, and by these days you got to do all these things. I think it's great. It gives you that blueprint, like you said, that guidance to get things done.
You got to be a little humble, and you have to ask for help when you know you're in trouble.
Right.
Whether you're in trouble or you don't really know. Yeah, no, you have to ask people. There's a lot of experts sitting right around you, and if you don't talk to these people and understand what they're doing there as well, we all assume that everybody's a newbie coming in there and they don't know any more than we know. But quite often, you've got a very seasoned person sitting right next to you that can give you help with things, whether it's from the lending side of it, the rehabbing side, or whatever. Just, you've got a lot of resources there, and you got to learn to use those resources.
And to the deal makers on Tuesdays, we hear Jesse giving a lot of instructions of what to do and what not to do. And hearing from other people doing deals and things like that, you learn a whole lot. You just gotta stay plugged in and asking questions when you don't know what to do. Or when you think you know, you always ask questions anyways to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Suzette.
We just made $158,000 on our first rehab. We are real investors, and we get real checks.
Yay.
Woo! So I got to tell you one quick story about Nick and Suzette. They are very, 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 very busy people. And the commitment to come to Real Investors, to the Academy, when we were doing stuff at the Academy, also meant that they had to bring their youngest because they couldn't always find a sitter. And I remember Suzette coming to me going, I hope it's okay, but we're bringing our 10-year-old daughter to class. And so they went through the apprentice class, got that first deal done as a result of being in the apprentice class. Then they went on to take the rehabbing class, a couple other classes. And by the time a year had gone by, Zoe turned 11, and she knows more. She's older than that now, but she knew more at 11 than most real estate agents know at 30, 40, 50, and 60. And so I want to encourage people to understand this is not just about you gaining knowledge and making money. This is about you gaining knowledge and passing it on to that next generation. So nobody ever has to apologize for bringing their kids to a Real Investors event or a Real Investors class, or any of the training that we do. In fact, I encourage people, you guys know, all three of my children are in the real estate business. All three of my children are successful real estate investors, some more than others, and some at a deeper level than others. My daughter does it on a part-time basis because she has a very good government contracts job as somebody who's responsible for landing new contracts and deal development for a government contractor. My oldest son straddles between his music career. He does a lot of music beats and works for a lot of musicians, many of whom you probably know and some of whom you've never heard of. And he provides their music, their beats, and that's a very lucrative, but he also does real estate. And then my youngest is an entrepreneur through and through, and he's been a full-time real estate investor literally since his freshman year in college. So all three of my kids, and that didn't happen by accident, that happened, but it also didn't happen because I forced them. It happened because my wife and I shared the knowledge with them, and they got a chance to see how we did and how we grew as investors, as a family, and they're very much a part of it. Now they're creating that next generation, and they'll pass that knowledge on to the next generation. So those of you who are signed up for the apprentice class that's coming up, I want to encourage you to bring your kids. I don't care what age they are, as long as they are mature enough to listen to the lessons, get them involved. That's one of the best ways to transfer this knowledge, and it's one of the best ways to close this wealth gap that's real, that exists in America, because many people never grew up knowing anything about investments in real estate. This is a chance to close that. So your homework for today is to go to that website, Real Virtual Assistant. I'll put that in the chat box. I'll put that in the Facebook group, and download that white paper on 100+ ways that you can use a virtual assistant. And what I would like for you to do is write up an aha sheet between now and class tomorrow, and just give me one thing that you never knew was a way to use a virtual assistant and upload that into the homework section on the Facebook page. Just one thing. Those of you who've been writing up contracts, if you want to continue submitting, that's great. But what I really want to see are the contracts from the people who have not submitted. And those of you who've fallen a little bit behind, those of you who are a little bit nervous about what you're doing, just catch up, because this is the last 4 days of this class. And I'm going to now show you how to use the checklist, the cheat sheets, pull all the pieces together and get that first deal done in the next 21 days. And then put that thing on autopilot using some kind of a virtual assistant service so you can grow your 6-figure business into a 7-figure business, into an 8-figure business. It's not hard doing it, but you've got to do the work at least well enough to teach it to somebody else. And whether that somebody else is a virtual assistant or that somebody else is your own kids, so your kids have a chance at a better life, you've got to learn it well enough to teach it to somebody else, okay? So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being, Sherman, why did you waste my time tonight? 5 being, I will be there, front row seat tomorrow. How we do? How we do today, guys? On a scale of 1 to 5, tell me how we did. Be honest with me. I can handle it. I can handle the truth. Oh, wow, we got our first 10. Somebody said we did a 10, a 5, a 10, a 10 plus. Wow, okay. 5 times 100, cool. Thank you guys very much. And I'll also pass those comments on to Amy. I'm sure she'll be happy to hear it, because she's as much a reason why we got 10s and 10 pluses tonight as I am. And I'm sure she'd be happy to hear that the information that she shared was well received. So download the paper, give me your one aha. Your one aha is something you read in that white paper on how to use a virtual assistant, something you didn't know before, something that you can see yourself using, something that you can see yourself using in the next 6 months or so, and going, okay, here's the way I can use somebody like this. Now I just need to get a couple of deals done so I can pay for them. And as Amy said, they got one investor who did more deals in a month than he'd ever done before through his virtual assistant, and set aside the money to pay for that virtual assistant for the next couple of years. Great thing about the Philippines, high quality talent, high quality labor, high work ethic, and probably cost you about half as much trying to find somebody in the DC area, but they come trained. All right, so do your homework. See you guys tomorrow, and we'll be at day 18. All right, thanks everybody. Talk soon.